Good morning. The Thursday, October 22nd, 2020 Board of County Commissioners meeting will come to order. We start every meeting off with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Today, the invocation is going to be performed by Commissioner Gonzalez. If you'd like to participate, please rise.
Lord God and Father above, we ask for a blessing upon this gathering today and for all those participating. I pray for wisdom for those here and around the country in making decisions. We thank you for the grace and mercy you've provided all of us who have lived and attempted to live in your name. Amen.
And please join Commissioner Vanderwerf as he leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3.
Item number 3, staff emergency items.
Any staff emergencies today? Seeing none, item number 4.
Item number 4 is the consent to appoint Deputy District Attorney. 4A, Deputy District Attorney Jordan Welsh. Dan May, District Attorney. Good morning.
Dan?
Good morning. Good morning, Dan May. Jordan comes from us. He's actually been both in the Metro and Rural DA's office. He was down in Alamosa before in Denver, so he comes with a lot of experience. And with that, I'll introduce him.
Good morning.
And you're welcome to take your mask off while you're at the podium.
Thank you. It makes for an easier record.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, again, I'm Jordan Welch. I've been doing this for about 2 years now. I was a private attorney on and off, but ultimately I keep coming back to district attorney work. It's where my passion is, and it's what I've wanted to do since well before undergrad.
And are you, Dan said you worked down in Alamosa County?
I did.
Are you familiar with any of the county commissioners down there?
I am.
I promise you we're way better than Darius Allen, just know that. So I'll text him and tell him I said that. No, he's a wonderful friend and a great guy, and I think Alamosa is going to be sad to see him go. But congratulations on being here, and we look forward to having you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to make a comment? Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just say that your jokes are almost as funny as Darius's.
I could only dream.
So what's your favorite football or baseball team?
You know, I grew up in North Carolina, so while I'd love to say I'm a Broncos fan, I think I'm still a Panthers fan at heart.
Oh, well, it's very timely as I'm a Bears fan. A great game on last Sunday, so my Bears beat the Panthers by a touchdown. Pretty awesome. Yeah, anybody else? Nope. All right. So with that, could I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Deputy District Attorney Jordan Welsh.
Second.
Oh, hang on. Can we withdraw that motion and second real quick, and let's excuse Commissioner Williams?
I withdraw that motion.
Move to excuse Commissioner Williams.
Second.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. And for those of you who know that she's out on some medical leave right now, so with that, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Bremer?
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. That passes unanimously with Commissioner Williams excused. All right, now could we have a motion to approve the new Deputy District Attorney?
I'd like to re-enter my motion to appoint Deputy District Attorney Jordan Welsh.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Bremer?
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes unanimously with Commissioner Williams excused. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to meet all of you.
I can brag he's the only deputy DA who's had twice been nominated by this board, so that speaks well highly of him.
Item number 5.
Item number 5, changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes or postponements. Our next meeting would be next Tuesday, October 27th.
Okay. Item number 6.
Item number 6, comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports.
All right. I don't see any elected officials in the audience, so let's start up here. Commissioner Bremer, you ready?
I don't have anything today, thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. PPACG is having a transportation planning cycle retreat today starting at 10 o'clock, but because of our board meeting here, none of us commissioners can attend, but that will be a good meeting for the rest of the PPACG board. And then on Monday, I will be participating via Zoom with the El Paso County Retirement Board. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had been following a lot of the religious freedoms and church issues. I was happy to see the federal district court overturn some of the mandates from the governor. It's being appealed. I have no idea if that'll be upheld or overturned in higher courts, but I'm always somebody who supports the church and liberties and freedoms as protected against in the Constitution, and so I'm happy to see courts do when they do so. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'd say I think that's something I think should go without saying that we all support. I think to a person on this board, everybody supports religious liberties and freedoms, and want to make sure that our churches are being treated the same way other entities are. So that was happy to see that decision out of the court.
And Mr. Chair, if I could have a quick alibi on that. I would just like to concur with the comments of the Vice Chair and the Chair on that point. And I just wanted to let you know that I had asked our County Attorney, Diana May, to look into the findings of that and what that means for us, and I'm looking forward to that. She's in the middle of that research now.
All right. Any other elected officials? I assume, Blake, we have nobody on the line. Okay. Item number 7.
Item number 7, community service organization reports.
Any community service organization reports today? Seeing none, item number 8.
Item 8, consent calendar. There are no items on the consent calendar.
And that would make item 9 a moot point, huh?
Correct.
Item number 10.
Item number 10, public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda, and I do not see any members of the public here at this stage.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on a matter that's not on the agenda? Scott, this is your opportunity. You want to, complain about something that's not on the agenda? All right. Well, seeing none, item number 11.
Item number 11 is department committee reports, non-action items, and this is a continuation of Tuesday's agenda item, but it's a 2021 budget hearing number 3, budget reports and critical needs, 5-year forecast, and COG presentations. Nikki Simmons, County Controller, Financial Services. Good morning, Ms. Simmons.
So it looks like we don't have the treasurer's office yet. Are we going to start with public health? And would you like me to just call them up now that you've made it down here? All right, public health. Ms. Whelan, this is your year. You should be asking for the moon.
Good morning, Commissioners. Susan Whelan. I serve as Public Health Director for El Paso County. Don't be afraid by the thickness of what you see in your packet.
Yeah,
I do not plan to go through every slide, so I just wanted to make you aware of that, because I know you might be getting nervous with the thickness of the packet.
I was going to let you know that thus far, 52 is a record for the number of slides. So, yeah, once you get there's a diminishing return,
It's been an incredible year. So I will provide a briefing, which it's been dominated by, our work has been dominated by COVID. So it's going to be a little bit of a different presentation this year. I wanted to first start off with describing why public health workers go into the public health field. My team and I, we care deeply about people. We serve numerous different populations, and we want to see people healthy, thrive, grow on a population level. And I think that that's really important because I don't want to lose sight of our important mission. Our mission is to promote and protect public health and environmental quality across El Paso County through people, prevention, and partnerships. And you'll see that demonstrated throughout the presentation. This has been a difficult presentation to put together because there's many unknowns in 2021, and you'll also see that what we usually have responsibilities for, statutory responsibilities for, we've had to put on pause because we simply don't have enough staffing. For example, some of our public health nurses who have signed up to work with moms, babies, infants, do travel vaccinations, have been reassigned to long-term care facilities. So that's quite a bit of different work, especially with what's going on with COVID and the challenges that we have been facing and are facing. Did I click the wrong button, Blake? Yeah, push the bottom button. I did. Okay. There we go. Thank you. Here's our organizational chart, and I apologize for the small type. You'll note in our organizational chart we have 3 different divisions: community health promotion, environmental health, and health services divisions. Pre-COVID, for local public health agencies who serve populations of 500,000 to 1 million have on average a total of 269 FTEs. We have 158 FTEs, which is about 111 less. With the time-limited CARES funding, we have added an additional 17 FTEs, bringing our short-term total to 175 FTEs. We are well below where other health departments are on average when it comes to public health staffing. I also want to say how honored I am to work with all the staffing at public health and the entire county team. We are governed by a 9-member Board of Health made up of a diverse group of highly qualified individuals, including Commissioners Bremer and Gonzalez, and I want to thank you for your leadership, your guidance, and your support. As I stated before, we have a long list of mandates we are statutorily required to fulfill. Given that COVID has dominated this past year's work, I don't plan to focus on many of these slides in my presentation. However, I wanted to include them for your reference. The work of our agency relies heavily on our strategic plans, which includes the Community Health Improvement Plan, which is driven by the Healthy Community Collaborative, and the El Paso County Indicators Report. However, this year we've had to shift all of our focus to COVID-19 response. Here's another slide that is used only as a reference of the goals that we usually focus on achieving. I mentioned our 3 divisions. I plan to only provide highlights of some of the routine work we were able to accomplish in 2020, given our agency's priority of leading the COVID response and not having enough staff to maintain the work due to reassigning the majority of our staffing responsibilities. Our Nurse Family Partnership and Women's Infant and Children programs quickly transitioned to the virtual platform to continue providing access to healthy foods, education, resources, and dedicated support for families. These services are going to be critical during the recovery phase and will be a foundational part of the new building in southeastern El Paso County. Our environmental health specialist and division has quickly adapted to this year to provide extensive support, technical guidance, and consultation to industry partners related to the COVID response. These are the areas that we typically address. However, we've rapidly expanded our technical outreach, working with multiple industries on COVID safety and prevention guidance as the state public health orders have evolved rapidly. El Paso County has issued the highest number of on-site wastewater treatment system permits in the state for the past several years. This year is no different. We are on pace to continue the highest numbers of permits. In 2019, we issued 518. And through September of 2020, we've issued 470 permits, so there's been no slowdown there. There are many facilities closed that were closed March 2020, but they've been able to work with our regulated partners. And also in August, we resumed virtual child care inspections, body art inspections, and we continue to conduct review of childcare and body art facilities, and body artists have continued to renew their body art competency exams. And hopefully I mentioned that when we need to review those plans before opening the new businesses. We have also continued to respond to outdoor air quality complaints, as there has been numerous fires that are ongoing that impact El Paso County air quality. Another area of routine work that has not slowed down, and I believe that this is due to the housing market and a lot of the positive activity going on in El Paso County and Colorado Springs. Our laboratory has completed a record number of water samples each month, June through September 20th. So each month, 800 plus water samples. Tests include drinking water and well water testing for contaminants like bacteria, E. coli, nitrates, sulfates to meet EPA guidelines and standards. The previous years, we usually do 600 or 700 water tests a month. Our community health division staff are assigned to the response, and these slides are here as a reference for areas that we would be working on pre-COVID. Our youth suicide prevention work group has shifted to a virtual meeting platform and continues their important work in the midst of COVID-19. Their accomplishments this year include publishing a resource written by local parents for parents, cataloging and connecting families to needed academic, economic, crisis, and connection resources, and targeted education on how to support the LGBTQ community as well as the youth community during the pandemic. It is critical that we continue this work and monitor the impacts of COVID-19 on youth and family behavioral health as well as well-being. Even during a global pandemic, we've still had the responsibility of monitoring over 60 different reportable diseases and responding. And we have seen cases of hepatitis A, rabies, and tuberculosis. If you all remember the previous year, this was the big outbreak started in 2018 and has ended happily. Very grateful for this, is due to all of the hard work of our staff as well as the partners in April of 2020. But you can see that with the sharp increase in hepatitis A cases between 2018 and 2019 is the area that is circled in red. As our population continues to grow, so does our disease burden. Now, shifting to what has dominated our work in 2020. These are part of our responsibility statutorily for emergency preparedness and response. We have the responsibility of training and planning, and we are part of the national, state, and local framework. Our emergency preparedness and response staff support a 5-county region in Colorado: El Paso, Park, Lake, Chaffee, and Teller counties. The plans that we've listed here, we've developed over the years, and we have trained and worked with numerous partners on these plans. Since 9/11, we have been operationalizing these plans through trainings, real events, and refining our efforts using after-action reports with our Office of Emergency Management partners. Commissioners, you all declared an emergency, local state of emergency during mid-March, and it was March 14th. This allowed us to access additional resources. Here's our timeline. Our first reported case was March 6th, and our first death was March 13th, sadly. And this is when we went into full response mode. During this time frame, there were numerous public health orders starting March 17th to date, and new metrics were established by the state September 15th. And that is the DIAL framework. As you are already aware, the majority of our staff has been reassigned to the COVID response in the areas of planning and response, disease control, environmental health, data analysis and research, and communication. I want to take a little bit of time to acknowledge all of the public health staff who have highly specialized skills and who have consistently demonstrated their dedication, integrity, service excellence, and ability to adapt to our response as we continue to learn more about the science and the data of this new virus. Commissioners, these are the critical needs that you've provided funding for starting in 2019. These were the first employees who were assigned into the COVID response and have been tremendously helpful assisting long-term care facilities, setting up and providing COVID testing, developing and launching the COVID data dashboard, and enhancing transparency of information quickly, helping the Joint Information Center, helping industries implement numerous state public health orders, and helping connect people to get their basic needs met. And I'll just read the FTEs in there in the areas of emergency preparedness and response. That's really key because when I talk about our responsibility as an agency to serve 5 counties, the FTE that you all have funded have the ability to focus in El Paso County and does not have the responsibility to focus on those other counties. And that's critical with a population our size. The individual that is in that job happens to be a nurse, a public health nurse, and that's even more of a benefit related to some of the responses that we get involved in. So that has been a critical position for El Paso County. Environmental health specialist, we have continued to grow. There's a need to do additional inspections and work with industries. Their work has heavily shifted in the pandemic to helping industries interpret public health orders along with county attorneys and help them to be successful with sanitation requirements. And so those positions have been critical too. A public health nurse, which has been, usually we have about 5 nurses to do vaccinations and travel clinic vaccinations. However, they've shifted, and this public health nurse also has helped us increase our bandwidth to support all of our long-term care facilities in El Paso County. Youth health and wellness staff, that's critical. That's where our teen prevention of teen suicides comes in, and those positions are critical to El Paso County and the work that we're doing with our multi-sector partners. We also hired a health equity planner, which is working primarily in Southeast Colorado Springs, but we have responsibilities throughout the county, and she has been steadily busy in helping include information on the data dashboard that is informative to health equity and helping people to get their basic needs met in the pandemic. And that position just started in 2020, so she really hit the ground running. The majority of these positions we hired in 2019, and then in 2020, the health equity planner. And if you all remember, 2019 was a different year where it was highly competitive. Sometimes we had to do numerous job interviews, 4 or 5 times before even a candidate would accept a position with us. We're in a different situation now, but it did take a while to implement the funding that you all had provided to support the critical needs FTEs. Also, administrative support. The administrative support has been solely dedicated to the Joint Information Center and has been critical in this response. Epidemiologist and also a chief scientific strategist who has been critical in developing the data dashboard. Speaking of the data dashboard, here is the vision that we had to develop a new Office of Data and Analytics was accomplished with the critical needs funding. This year, the data team quickly developed and launched an interactive data dashboard, which has been highlighted as one of the best in the state. This platform enhances transparency by increasing access to timely and accurate data. I also want to mention Jeff Eckert, who is the Chief Information Officer for the county. He has been really helpful in helping operationalize that vision of having a data dashboard. The original idea was to support county offices, and that's where we still want to be, but it has been solely dedicated to the COVID response.
So if I'm reading this chart correctly, we have the lowest number of, I guess, 14-day rolling case incidents per 100,000 people of the other counties that are on this chart.
You're quick, yes. That's what I wanted to demonstrate, and what I also would like to note is that consistently, El Paso County has consistently had incidence levels towards the lower end of this group, and the current surge, we're again at the lower end, but trending upward.
So are these, and I see that you have the, I guess the dashboard dial, I don't know what we're calling it, but
the state's dial framework.
Okay, so it looks like we have that on here. And so those other counties are in those categories right now. So it looks like Adams County's not doing very well. They're dialed back to safer at home now?
Yeah, and I can give you a listing of which counties are ahead of us and in a different level, which is more severe disease burden. So El Paso County is currently in safer level at 1. Arapahoe is in safer level at 1. Larimer is at safer level of 1. Adams is at safer level 2. Denver is at safer level of 2. Jefferson, level 2. Boulder, level 2. Weld, level 2. And Douglas, level 1. And that's currently.
Okay.
Okay. Our team of disease investigators continue to use core principles to limit the spread of COVID-19. Typically, we have a team of 3.5 FTE who are dedicated to communicable disease investigations, which is not sufficient to respond to the burden of the global pandemic. We have reassigned other program staff, hired new staff, and contracted with the Pikes Peak Workforce Center to utilize more than 50 additional staff to conduct this work. These activities continue 7 days a week, 24/7, as we serve to protect El Paso County during the pandemic. We've engaged healthcare partners since the beginning of the pandemic, facilitating routine meetings. We have continued to expand and refine our testing strategy to increase access to reduce barriers to COVID-19. The community's low barrier testing site at the Citadel, which provides free testing to all who seek it, just reached a new single-day record on Tuesday, October 20th, with 854 tests completed. We will continue to utilize and promote this resource through the winter months, and we are also looking for other sites in El Paso County to reduce barriers and increase access. And what currently we're thinking is to provide some testing in Falcon, Fountain, and Monument. And we're trying to work out the staffing, and we're also trying to work out the partnerships with some of the firehouses and the fire chiefs to have locations. And we also have a trailer that we utilize to take supplies to those sites. So more information to come on that, but that is something that we continue to work on in our testing strategy. We've established a policy group with numerous partners in the beginning, meeting 7 days a week to address complex policy issues. We also established a regional recovery council with the EDC and numerous business sectors and meet weekly. Public health and economic health are intricately linked, and together we've been successful at gaining state approval, expanding business capacities, and opening many sectors of the economy. We also have monthly meetings with our state state elected officials. Senator Lundin had helped me coordinate these meetings. Senator Lundin participates, Representative Mark Snyder, Representative Pete Lee, Representative Tim Geithner joined us recently, Representative Terry Carver, and there's probably a couple of others, but it's a great information sharing where we go over the dashboard and just open dialogue. Environmental health staff have provided technical guidance and consultation on state public health orders and guidelines relating to COVID this year. The team has fielded nearly 9,000 inquiries from mid-March through September this year, compared to a typical call volume of 1,900 last year. Our retail food program is actively engaging in businesses, with businesses and retail food partners to proactively plan and identify innovative solutions to expand outdoor dining in the winter months. We've received positive feedback from numerous partners thanking us for our innovation, our solution-oriented approach, and balancing the economy with public health. We were the first county to receive approval for in-person graduations, and we are proud of the partnerships with the schools to help make this important milestone a reality for our young adults. I wanted to read one of the quotes here, and there's a few different quotes on different slides, but from Greg Howard, the president of the Colorado Restaurant Association and the local Pikes Peak chapter. This is what he stated. I sit on the state board for the Colorado Restaurant Association, and my constituents up there are shocked at the relationship that our local chapter has with El Paso County Health Department here, because most counties don't and most cities don't. So it's a huge compliment to what Public Health Department does here. And that speaks to the professionalism and the dedication and the technical assistance and timely technical assistance that we provide to our community. I have a deep sense of gratitude for so many partners, and there's no way that I'll be able to list them all. They have responded in big ways to the pandemic, and it starts with all of the efforts that we've done throughout, but some key areas are the partnerships that we formed to gain approval for multi-sector variances, and all of the work that we have been doing together. It's been remarkable. With the county's local declaration of the emergency in March, we were able to leverage volunteers from the Medical Reserve Corps to strengthen response efforts. We utilized 41 Medical Reserve Corps volunteers who have contributed more than 3,700 hours of time. That's an estimated value of $162,000. In addition, local CERT volunteers have provided well over 600 hours of time in staffing the call center and responding to questions from the community. And this is all volunteer work as part of the response. So we are deeply grateful to them. Here are some photos from our community partners in action. You might recognize some faces. I want to take a minute to acknowledge the exceptional county team, which includes you all. The county team has stepped up in big ways. We are grateful for the support of all county departments, including the commissioners, for your steadfast guidance and leadership during this unprecedented time. The Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management has been an integral part of this response. The foresight of the county and the city leadership to create a regional emergency preparedness office has had great benefit to the community. We greatly appreciate it because we don't have to split our staffing and go to different OEMs. It's been a really efficient model, so thank you for that. I also want to acknowledge the coroner's office. Dr. Kelly is not only brilliant and such a kind and compassionate person, he has been phenomenal. Just outstanding. He has served as our deputy medical director and essentially volunteering for that role. He has put in numerous hours, and he has worked tremendously hard. He also, in the beginning, offered his investigators to help us ramp up our communicable disease investigations, and that was incredibly critical in the beginning, so we didn't get behind. And so I'm grateful to him and to all of his staff at his office. And that is unique in the state of Colorado, and I bet you it's unique in the nation. I don't think you're going to find another coroner's office that cares about prevention and supporting public health as much as our coroner's office. And it's noted around the state. When I talk with other public health professionals and also business leaders, it's outstanding that we have such a great asset in El Paso County. So I just can't say enough thank you to the coroner's office. Our IT department for implementing Office 365 and your foresight in supporting the funding to implement that in the county. That is so efficient, especially now that we're working remotely. There are numerous publications, documents, information. There are sometimes upwards of like 5+ people editing documents in real time. It is so efficient. And I will tell you, we were editing until midnight last night, this presentation. It's been incredible. And also with Jeff Eckert and his team making public health a priority, we wanted to protect our staff. We didn't want to get ill. And so we shifted to remote teleworking quickly. And that support has been helpful. The attorney's office, wow. You all have been incredible. I mean, public health orders were changing so rapidly. By the hour, by the day, by the week, and it slowed down a bit. But to interpret those public health orders, to clarify those public health orders, to implement those public health orders, helping businesses, that's been phenomenal. And we've got the best attorney's office at the county as well. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Lori Seago. You guys are incredible. Greatly appreciate you. Also, Amy Folsom and Kenny Hodges. Kenny Hodges and I speak multiple times a day. Evenings, weekends. He is my point of contact to keep you all updated with back and forth information as information has changed quickly as well, so we can stay coordinated. He's been phenomenal. We are also grateful to the Pikes Peak Workforce Center, who helped us utilize unique skills-based approach to hiring qualified contact tracers. They've been incredible. The Economic Development Department and the Pikes Peak Business Development Center have been phenomenal in their work in connecting business partners with resources and education on the rapidly changing guidelines. And I can't list everyone up here, but I see Scott over there. He has a role. He's helped us out with logistics and cones and everything to set up all of the testing sites. And Brian with all of the following all the guidelines and doing such a great job at all of the disinfecting and keeping that up at the multiple facilities. And again, I want to thank each and every board and county commissioner, including Holly Williams, for your leadership and your support. I think that's unique as well. So thank you. So now to the budgetary highlights. In 2021, we do expect that grants and fees to be at least at 70%, and then also the county's core funding to continue at 22%, which are the largest contributors to the public health's $17.4 million. You'll see on the slide that it shows $20.8 million, and that is due to the epidemiology and laboratory capacity grant, the CARES funding, which is time limited. You can see from this slide that our biggest asset and area that is helpful in our agency are the staff, are the people. And so our personnel budget is at 73%. And that's when you combine the CARES dollars as well as the county core funding. So here's some of our budgetary challenges. It's critical public health workforce, the infrastructure. In 2008, you'll see that we had 199 full-time employees, and we've had some fluctuations to date. And so in 2019, well, actually in 2018, you all had approved additional critical funding to support 10 additional FTEs. So in 2019, we have 158 employees, and then in 2020, 158, and in 2021, 158. Additional budgetary highlights. Another area that I want to thank you for is making public health a priority for the $8.4 million that you have allocated to us for staffing and supplies, for the purchase of a building in southeast portion of the county, $200,000 for implementation of communication plans to increase transparency and speed of the information getting out, $200,000 for mental health and resiliency support for the community, and some for our staff. We also received $5.1 million from the CARES Fund for the Epidemiology and Laboratory Capacity Grant that heavily supports our staffing, our epidemiologists, our contact tracers, our disease and intervention specialists, and $653,000 in CARES funding passed through from the Colorado Department of Public Health that is specific for the COVID response. Here's a highlight from the CARES funding that we are planning to seal the deal with the new building in early November. That doesn't mean that we're going to be open for business in November, but that we will have a building to occupy. Our Women's, Infant, and Children program will be working out of this location to assist people with meeting their basic nutritional needs and supporting behavioral health needs with their clients and getting them connected. Public health services to support the community during the pandemic response, and we've got a long road to recovery. So that area is going to be a focus. Emergency preparedness and response activities, particularly as it relates to COVID testing sites, points of dispensing for a future COVID vaccine, and ample storage for all things emergency preparedness and response. Our agency's challenges are the increase in population. The majority of our funding is restricted due to grants and contracts, and we need support to build critical public health workforce and infrastructure to meet the emerging needs. Here's the 5-year funding plan, and part of the critical needs funding request is to ask our Board of Health for the use of fund reserves throughout these years to get to $1 million in sustainable core funding from the county. This year, I am asking for $250,000 to continue supporting the 10 additional critical needs. This is our proposed budget for 2021. And I am happy to answer any questions. Here's just a couple of photos, to bring back some, this has been a fast-moving, 8 intense months, and just to reflect on so many news conferences. And thank you for your participation in those. And I guess I would like to read, one more quote from Mayor Suthers, is that this goes to our entire public health team and the county health department. Our city is grateful for public health's dedication, their focus on collaboration, and their steady leadership during this pandemic. While I realize this pandemic is not over and there are great challenges ahead, I know it's important to recognize the great work that's been done and the time and talent you've committed to help this community remain resilient. Thank you, Mayor John Suthers. And that goes to our entire county team, because we are heavily connected, and we cannot do our job without you, the entire county team, and all of our partners. That's how we're successful.
Man, I look at some of those pictures on the previous slide, and it almost feels like they were 100 years ago. Yeah, holy mackerel.
Yes, I completely agree. I think it's been like, it feels like a very
COVID
long
years
time ago.
yeah,
It
they're
does.
different.
Yeah.
All right, any questions or comments for Susan? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to thank you for all the great work you and the staff have done on this. Public health is, really protecting our residents here. One of the things, I did meet with some different members, nonprofits. The suicide, you mentioned it earlier, but I didn't really give many details. They did have a concern that they were up this year. I haven't seen any official numbers, but could you indicate how we're trending compared to the last couple of years?
I knew you were going to ask that question, but I apologize. I wasn't able to get some of the detailed information, and I think that that's a presentation we could provide later with the coroner's office. But I will tell you what I do know is that the years where we were having just a tremendously hard time and just a lot of heartbreak, we were, experiencing 14 completed suicides per year. We are currently at about half of that, but I don't have specific numbers, and I know that we all know that one is too many, and I can confirm those numbers, but to my knowledge, and speaking with Dr. Kelly, that we are not on pace for the high numbers that we've seen. Doesn't mean that it's not a problem and we're not concerned. And I do think that there's been so many impacts, right, to all of us in youth, and we're all concerned about kids. And one of our number one priorities is to support schools and get kids to in-person learning and working with the superintendents. And that's extremely important to their mental health and social well-being, and we will continue doing all we can on that front. We do have a multi-sector, I always want to say variance, but it's a partnership with the Teen Suicide Coalition, including many different schools. We are still conducting our child fatality review team to work on prevention efforts, and that will be a primary focus for public health.
Anything else? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, just to start right off, my compliments and thanks to you, Susan, and the entire team. Wow, what a job this year has been. Most definitely one for the record books. So I appreciate the presentation today, and actually I appreciate very much your willingness to have some flexibility with regard to the funding, because at a $250,000 request, it's not a request for all the funding that you have an interest in. But I think that's a good balanced number. And I have to tell you, I just love the dashboard that you guys made. I mean, I think it had a few growing issues at the beginning, but it's gotten consistently better over time. You may or may not know this, I use it almost daily. I go on the website, and that has actually reduced the amount of times I've had to give Kenny Hodges a call, who then subsequently calls you, because I'm using the website, and I'm sure that was at least part of the point.
It's very highly efficient, yes.
Yeah. So I use it almost every single day, and I do ask you to keep providing that data, because that eliminates a lot of needs for me to call somebody over at Public Health, because I can use the data. And I've always wondered, but you may feel like you're getting this support. A public health response to a pandemic like this has to be balanced between the public health needs and the economic needs, because public response that goes too far causes other problems, where people can't get a job and put food on the table and solve their own problems with their own resources. So You may feel like maybe the chamber is providing this or whatever, but I've always wondered, have you felt you've needed somebody like an economist to help you provide the balance on the other side so that there's a balance between public health issues and economic issues? And of course, you know, I imagine that you don't have extensive expertise in economic issues in your public health office, but it seems to me there's a balanced need there. So that's a question I have for you, but I'll finish the other points. And I appreciate, you know, the use of the term outbreaks, but I have to tell you, it feels like a misnomer to me when an outbreak is a transmission from one person to another. I don't think that you drive that definition. I think that's coming from the state or coming from somewhere else.
Federally, framework.
Federally, yeah. You know, I guess there's nothing I can do about it, but it seems to me like when a pandemic is spread from one person to another, that's a transmission, and an outbreak is some larger number. But I wish they would maybe be a little bit more refined in the definitions. And I also noticed, I looked at the data this morning, we're above the 5% positivity rate. 5.32 is the number that's on there today. See, I do use it.
Yes.
And of course, we know that that's you know, a challenge. We know we've got increasing numbers here. I know there's going to be I think it's on Friday, a public announcement about some things that might take place.
And I wanted to clarify too, we don't know yet. I mean, we're planning, you know, for a news conference on Friday, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen, so I did want to make that clear.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I know that's my sense of it as well, that we don't know and what the state may decide, or CDPHE, what they may decide that we need to do going forward. I would encourage them to not restrict businesses. Because I think, and this is, you know, just a layman's understanding of this, but I think, you know, part of the challenge we have is as we go into a winter season, more people are going to be staying indoors. And a way to reduce transmission is spreading people out. And when we had the outdoors during the summer, that was a fantastic way to do that. But in the winter, there'll be less people outside. So if we do something drastic with businesses, we actually reduce locations where people can go to that allows for spreading out. But the spreading out is indoors as opposed to outdoors. So I'm just hopeful that there won't be too much done as far as restricting businesses. I think it might actually be counterproductive as far as helping people stay spread out. And I think I need to give a special shout out to the volunteers. Wow, you know, really fantastic what they've done. They've done that without pay. They've done that because they care about the community, and it's really fantastic that they are there helping you. And I can specifically express my appreciation to them. Also, one last point, thanks for the Southeast facility that you're talking about. I think that will be really, really helpful in providing a broader array of services community-wide. That's really fantastic. And I look forward to continuing to work with you. We still have an issue. We've got to keep our businesses open while also being safe. We've got to do both together. That just needs to be a given, that we've got to do both of them at the same time in order for us to get through this successfully. I have spoken to some folks, some business owners and so forth here in the last few days. They're very concerned about what the state might do. I don't think the state will go as far as closing businesses like they did last time, but I can give you one example, but I think it's a way to express some empathy for what the challenges have been for our business community. This individual owns a small business. He went 3 months without paying himself so that he could pay his employees and keep his business alive. He ate up 100% of his savings in doing that, and he cannot afford a second round. He can't do a second round. So to me, it feels very important that we've got to keep our businesses open, and I would encourage the state to do that. And we just need to do that being safe by following all the protocols. I think the protocols that we have are well established, well understood. Those were even well understood when I was working on national pandemic simulations when I was in NORAD Northcom. Same protocols were part of the operation back then. So these have actually been well understood for quite some time. So anyway, thanks very much for the presentation. I appreciate your sensitivity and a balance of the request for the budget. And keep on going. And again, I'd like to express my thanks to everybody that's doing such hard work in your public health office. Thank you.
Thank you. So to your question, with the Regional Recovery Council, we have a lot of expertise on that council, and we work very closely with Dr. Tatiana Bailey, who I believe is an economist. And she is brilliant, and she also has a background in public health. So that's a representative, on the Recovery Council, but the Recovery Council also has numerous different experts, and we take, a lot of feedback and different perspectives. And public health does not make decisions in silos or advocate for what we need in silos either. And we too want to see businesses stay open, and we too want to see schools stay open. We want all of the same things, because you can't disconnect public health and the economy and jobs and people meeting their basic needs. And so those are all important, and what we've referred to that in public health, it's the social determinants of public health. They're all connected, and they're all important.
Well, and I would say that rarely is it the circumstance that public health is the entity actually making the decision. And I think we confuse that often, and I think that sometimes the stuff that we say on the board makes it confusing. We are all subject to the decisions made at the state now. It's CDPHE. If they come down and tell us what to do, we respond. That's how it's been happening. I have a call with the governor later on this afternoon, and you better bet I'm going to express to the governor what our opinions are in El Paso County. But know this, their decisions have already been made. The governor's not going to, I'm not on this call with the governor because he wants my input. I'm going to be on this call with the governor because he's going to tell us what the state is going to do moving forward. So I think it's important to understand and realize, we put a lot of the attention and focus on you, but you are just as subject to the requirements set forth by the state of Colorado as we are. It's not like you're making decisions, and I'm guessing if the conversations you have with CDPHE are probably very similar to the ones that I have with the governor, which are not, hey, El Paso County, what do you think we should be doing moving forward? It's, hey, El Paso County, this is what we're going to do moving forward. You need to implement this.
Well, and I will note that I do have the authority as public health director to make orders and rules more stringent than the state. And not to change the orders.
Or make them less restrictive.
No, not to change or to make them less restrictive. I do want to make sure that it's known, and I think that you all know, and the community, is that we're guided by science and data. And this has been a big challenge as we learn, and then we adapt to what we're learning. And so we are doing the best job that we can do to follow the principles of infectious disease control. And this is what we've done, in my 20-plus career. Mm-hmm. That's a foundational skill. It's just been compounded with the intensity of this new virus and the ability to really, have A to Z plan. Here's exactly what you do, and they have a communicable disease book. There's a lot of information in there, but it's been a big challenge this year, and I'm so proud of my team, because they've just been incredible through it all, and they continue to adapt and move and do everything that we can to serve the community.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that we're not, you can make things more restrictive. I'm guessing that hasn't happened either at all, or if it has, it's been in very rare circumstances. And I get and understand that, also it's been tough to collect data. You talked a little bit about contact contact tracing earlier, we know there's been a fairly significant public outcry about that, and I get that early on Commissioner Vanderwerf was a big proponent of that to try to give you all the tools that you need to move forward, but there's been a fairly significant public outcry about contact tracing, and I think that that's probably limited your ability to maybe do that as effectively as you could otherwise, and that there are a lot of limitations that have been set forth for you. But again, for the most part, we are at the whim of the direction of the state. That's all I'd say. Anything else? Commissioner Bremer.
Thank you. You started this presentation referencing your mission and that you accomplish your mission through people, prevention, and partnerships. And so I'm going to just kind of bring it back to that and thank each of those and say a little bit about that. Your people internally, to everyone who has been scrambling behind the scenes, perhaps at times feeling very unappreciated just by the circumstance. I don't think that this community can ever thank you enough. And so once again, I'm up here saying thank you. Thank you to Susan and the very prominent faces that I see here in the room of your staff, but for all of those people behind them as well. This community can be very, very proud of the response provided by each of your people. Dr. Turbush, you've done a great job leading the Board of Health through this. I love having the opportunity to work with you, and I think heading right into prevention, we talk a lot in public health or any other venue about not really being able to measure prevention. You can't always put your finger on exactly how much you helped somebody by having something not happen in the first place. And your department was ready for that. And it's been an honor and a joy to sit back and watch you do that and watch you do it without necessarily always having the ability to say, hey, look what we prevented over here. That's a very difficult part of your job, and you do it by focusing on positive outcomes, and I think that's just tremendous, and it's a hard story to tell right now when it doesn't seem that all the outcomes that are being played out are entirely positive. So you do a tremendous job of prevention, and then also partnerships. I don't know anybody in this community who has pulled together as multi-sector, I don't know anybody who has pulled together more people and partnerships than you have. And the funny thing is, you've actually done that all along. And you talk about how a pandemic has highlighted some of the hard parts of your job and some of the difficult things, but I think it's really highlighted your strength in building partnerships too, and realizing ahead of time what partnerships might be needed at a future time. So tremendous kudos to you for that. And then one other thing, Commissioner Vanderwerf talked about the, balancing the economic and kind of what we think of as public health orders now, right? I think that all along your focus on people. You started off by saying it's about serving the residents of this county, and I think your focus on people has automatically given you that kind of global look at what is affecting people's overall health, and I think that is a point that needs to be highlighted a bit. I do appreciate the fact that there are. There was a quote from the Restaurant Association gentleman about how rare the the partnership with the local health department is. I think that your focus on people has, and the partnerships has just always made, it has set your department up for success. And even if it doesn't feel like a year in which you can claim public health success, you have set us up well to handle this, I think, better than a lot of places in this state, better than a lot of places in this country, and we couldn't ask for better leadership and representation in that way. So, great presentation, thank you.
I was going to tell you, I actually ran into Dan Martindale the other day, and I said to him, "Wow, you know, prophetic, retiring when you did. I'm sure Susan Whelan curses your name every day for retiring early, but he sends his best, and I concur with Commissioner Bremer. I'm so thankful we have your leadership right now at the helm as we move forward through this crisis."
Thank you, and I just again want to, thank you all, each and every commissioner, for your support. It's been extremely critical in the work that we do, as well as the entire county administration. So thank you.
Thanks.
And have a great day.
You too, Mr. Treasurer. Let's see if you can beat Schleicher.
Okay, goodbye, Commissioner. That'll teach me to be tardy to a meeting, won't it? As usual, my budget's in good shape. We don't have any critical needs. Both offices, the treasurer and the public trustee, are going to be just fine. So my only message to you is, as always, please try and take care of our biggest asset, our employees, and do whatever you can to take care of them. They've all pitched in during this pandemic, and I'm fortunate with a small office that we're there full time, everybody open to the public. So, and we anticipate continuing to do that. So. Have a nice day. And I think Schleicher beat me again this year.
Probably so.
We're starting to call it the battle of brevity.
Well, sure, and we appreciate that. Actually, I do have a couple of questions for you. Number one, I know early on we were trying to figure out, like, during the pandemic, what percentage of your employees were going to be able to work from home. You had some public-facing functions that we were trying to work around to, be able to still provide the same services. But keep people safe. And so I'm just curious a little bit about the status of that. How the drop-off payment box, is that still working well? Is that something we're still doing?
Yeah, we've collaborated with Chuck's office, and he's let us use his drop box. We're not currently using it because of the ballot situation.
Right.
But as soon as the election's over, we'll go to it again. That's been really well accepted especially by the title companies. So we're proceeding with that. But unfortunately, when you collect money, you can't do that remotely. We still get mail every day. People still walk in every day and want to pay their taxes and so forth. So when it was mandated, we gave it the old college try to, as much as we could work from home, but unfortunately for an office that, again, deals with money, it just doesn't dovetail very well.
And from a facilities perspective then, or do you have what you need in order to be successful? You said you didn't have any critical needs, but is there stuff we need to be doing to, make your facilities, safer, better, more compliant with COVID restrictions?
Well, we appreciate that, but we're lucky in that regard too, that again, since both offices, the public trustee and the treasurer, deal with money, we have glass partitions in place already. Since we've moved up to CSC, and we get that separation, so we haven't had to implement sneeze guards like other offices have. So we're in good shape there too. Thank you. The few things that we have required from facilities, Brian's been really responsive. We've got some hand sanitizers and all those kind of things. So we're in good shape. But thanks for asking.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for coming this morning. You know, you've taken on the public trustee duties, and just wanted to get a quick update. How are those going? And it's since you've not made any requests, I guess from a financial point of view, everything's all good there. But has that integration of that into your office been going well?
Yeah, it went really smooth, which is a tribute to both my staff and the existing public trustee staff that we brought over. Foreclosures have virtually stopped, but luckily there's two funding sources for that office. It's foreclosures and releases, deed releases when people refinance and so forth. And the releases are kind of that office's bread and butter. The office is self-funding. We've never had to ask for money from the board, from the general fund. That portion of the office, the public trustee, is funded through the fees that we collect. We're still on pace to do that. So everything that we don't use budget-wise for that office is returned to the general fund. And on that note too, we just finished, on the treasurer's side, we just finished our tax sale. And I think I've talked to you before that a growing trend where people used to be able to purchase a lien by paying the taxes, that's not so much the case anymore. There are now bonus bids or premium bids, and every property that sold, which was all of them, was subject to a bonus bid. So that overage above and beyond the taxes goes to the general fund, and this year was the highest it's ever been. It was just over $200,000. So. And that's general fund money, because the bonus bids are not paid back to the investor when the property is redeemed. So it was a windfall this year too.
Great, thank you.
Anything else for the treasurer? All right, thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. All right, Mr. Cuthbertson, all you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Chair, Scott Cuthbertson, Executive Director of Public Works for El Paso County. I need about 7 hours of your time. Just kidding.
Okay, budget denied.
My organization, I have 249 of the hardest working employees in the county, organized into our 4 divisions here and our customer service folks. All of them are continuing operations through the COVID situation. Our engineering staff and our administrative staff has been able to flex work from home where possible with a lot of the foresight from county IT and leadership. We're doing some significant CARES Act projects to make our facility more appropriate for that type of operation. We have not yet figured out how to fix roads or plow snow or grade roads from home. So the majority of our workforce has been coming in. We've taken precautions to take care of them. We've staggered arrivals and departure times, starting at about 5 a.m. till about 5:30 p.m. every day. And what that does is make the first line supervisors stretch their days just a little bit, but our folks are on board with that, and it's going fairly well for us. On the fleet management side of the house, we maintain everybody's fleet with the exception of the sheriff, about a $45 million fleet, over 1,200 pieces of equipment, roughly half of which is rolling stock, and then the rest of it's heavy hand tools, compressors, generators, things of that nature. We support all those departments. A lot of words on this chart, but I'll sum it all up. We're trying to make a lot of data-driven decisions and leverage technology to do that. Several years ago, we put telematics into our heavy fleet, which allows us to do electronic pre- and post-trip inspections, allows us to analyze where those pieces of equipment go, when they turn their sanders on, when they turn their plow or put their plow up or down, things of that nature. This year have rolled that out. We recently installed telematics, or are still finishing up installing telematics in the county light fleet. So we hope that with the data from that telematics process, one, it helps us look for maintenance issues, those vehicles ahead of time. It will email our mechanics when there's a potential trouble for a piece of equipment. We're able to monitor driver behavior and pass that on to the leadership of those departments. It's actually been a fairly small percentage of those. But it also is going to allow us to track utilization of that equipment, and over time we can make smarter decisions about what vehicles to replace. We have an initiative within on the light fleet side of the house that we're working on now, moving toward online reservations and pooling of vehicles using either your smartphone to access the vehicle or a lockbox for the keys. We're still exploring some of that technology. On the bottom of the chart, upgrading snow removal and ice control equipment, we are working toward turn-by-turn instructions in the truck for when a snow vehicle goes out into an area that they may or may not be familiar with, optimize their routes, optimize the technology to get them where they need to go. And then also we have an opportunity to make some of that public facing. We get a lot of phone calls about when's my road going to get plowed, how come my road wasn't plowed. Well, we have the GPS piece of it, we have the telematics piece of it, we have the routes. What we want to do is capture some of the work that's being done by CDOT and some of the work being done by some of the municipalities to our north, and be able to do predictive modeling for citizens for when they can expect to see their road plowed. In addition to that, we continue to do very high-level training on the current snow removal technology as we've implemented anti-icing using salt brine. And with those new vehicles that we have, we're able to go out and take care of that technology. This year, we did our what has traditionally been called Snow Week training. This year now called Snow Month because of COVID. We went with smaller groups. Actually, it turns out to be higher quality training. We brought in a simulator from L3, and we're able to put our drivers in situations that we can't replicate in the parking lot. We can't replicate pushing tires around the yard. And it's been very successful for us, and has allowed us to do a lot of crash reduction and just kind of make things safer for us all the way around. And it's we get a lot of positive feedback on it. It took a little time for folks to buy into that concept. Some successes this year on the fleet side. It says replace the two 25-year-old vehicle lifts. We're actually doing that now, making some concrete cuts to get those heavy equipment lifts replaced. In addition to that, we're looking at a demonstration of some newer technology for heavy lifts that will allow us to not necessarily put a lift in the middle of the bay, but using like pallet jack kind of technology, push the heavy lift out of our way, and we can use that bay for other purposes as well. Also cuts down the installation costs, so I'm excited to see how that works out. I'll go back and see that when I'm done here. With your support, Porter County Administration, and some creative work from my folks in County Finance, by using the municipal leasing program, this year we're able to either have replaced or in the middle of replacing 47 medium heavy pieces of equipment. In the 5 or so years I've been here, we've cut the age of our heavy equipment fleet in half, which is a dramatic impact on our operations. Our operators, when they come in the morning, they can be pretty well assured that that vehicle will start and get them to and from work during the day, and they won't have to drag it in or put it on a lowboy to haul it back for maintenance, which is allowing us to put those man hours to work. This year we had a lot of focus with help of critical needs from your support last year on the light fleet. We were able to replace 60 of the 235 light vehicles. Some of those are still coming in, primarily for other county entities. It's making a huge impact on the daily operations for example, Craig's inspectors and PCD. They can come to work, know that their vehicle is going to start, and get them out to do their tasks. Every down day of that vehicle costs us operational hours from employees, so it's critical that we get those things done. And again, we've just about cut the average age of the light fleet in half. And we talked about the telematics. Critical needs on the fleet side of the house. Fleet management software. Currently, we're managing our fleet using a cobbled together system of Excel and Microsoft Access and some other things. By getting a professional fleet management software program, it'll allow us to determine appropriate life cycle for the vehicle, appropriate maintenance for the vehicle, when it's upside down and it's time for it to go, without having to do a lot of hand jamming and calculations, which allows our staff to focus their efforts on other things. The DEF fuel island upgrades. Our fuel island is impressive when you look at it. It has both diesel and gasoline on it, but it's the pumps are getting toward end of life cycle, and we want to get ahead of that. Operationally, it would be an enormous hit for us if those went down on us. The diesel emissions fluid. As we get more and more equipment that requires that, we have one station that is just, it becomes a very choke point for us in the morning and in the evening when folks are trying to get in and out of the yard. By putting that on the fuel island, we gain efficiencies, and then for our by getting all of that inefficient, we can put some things on the island to allow our operators to take care of their equipment all in one place at one time, one station, get them back to work as fast as we possibly can, and then increase the hydraulic lift replacement program, moving it to the left and accelerate that process. On the transportation and highway side of the house, these are our daily tasks, if you will. Planning and design for critical road and infrastructure needs, inspection and maintenance of our existing infrastructure, daily operations, the occasional emergency, which seems to happen every night and every day, construction project management, wildland fire support, which we've been fairly fortunate this year, knocking wood or veneer, and of course our daily snow removal operations and dealing with our stormwater permit requirements. Our infrastructure, roughly half gravel, roughly half pavement, about 270 bridges, 109,000 linear feet of drainage, 382,000 feet of drainage pipe, 24 miles of guardrail, 29,000 signs, 54 signals, 34 warning flashers, and 162, that says luminaires, but some of those are street lights and some of those are lights that are in the intersections to highlight when you approach an intersection. Our statutory requirements, I just want to, most of these are not new, not different. We're covering a lot of statutes, but I want to highlight Senate Bill 18167, underground utility locates, which is a new requirement for us, another unfunded mandate. We are now required to be a Tier 1 locator, much like those companies you see out there when people are doing things on their private property. We have to do locates on our roads when we maintain them. So every time a grader touches a road, we have to go out and do locates on it. And as you can imagine, that is an incredible workload for us. And we also have to reach out to other organizations to do those locates. I'll talk about that more in just a minute. Our strategic plan goals, define and allocate funding streams. We are as creative as we could possibly be in finding funding streams to get things done. You'll see on the bottom of the chart under Goal 3, planning grant application leadership to solve the I-25 gap funding challenge. Our staff has been very creative in coming up with solutions to impact that funding without impacting our operational budget. Ms. Irvin deserves a huge amount of credit for all of the work she's done to make that happen. And, that's going to be something that, our citizens of El Paso County are going to enjoy for years to come. She's been extremely creative and working through coalitions and partnerships to get that done, and several of her key employees have helped her with that. And it's been an interesting ride. She's got a great mind for solving challenges like that. And I can tell you, I'm incredibly appreciative of her efforts there. I will pass it on, Mr. Chair. And then on the bottom, we talk about enhancing the public's understanding of the cost of what we do and the long-term cost of not funding capital projects and not funding maintenance. And we'll cover a little bit more of that as we get in here. On our major capital projects in process, the vast majority of those projects on the top of that chart are either substantially complete or close to substantially complete. We're coming to closure on a lot of those, and we're hitting the next set of those projects. On the maintenance side of the house, our customer service request numbers are actually down. Folks have become familiar with Citizen Connect and are less aggressive at using it. But as you can see, the top two on our chart are pavement, gravel, followed by signage and snow removal, and then a bunch of other ones. We keep pretty good track of those. We're pretty responsive. I know you all get a handful of those. You get the more challenging ones usually, but we're working pretty closely with citizens. I've got some initiatives we're going to work on the next 12 months on the customer service side of our house, primarily to streamline that operation and get it out of the hands of our frontline leaders who should be focused on other things. So I look forward to talking to you about that next year. On the maintenance, I want to talk about dust abatement and our gravel road reclamation. You know, you've seen our BOMAG gravel road reclaimer and the equipment that we use to support that. What that piece of equipment has allowed us to do is reduce the amount of time it takes us to do that dust abatement process by a third. You just go out, you hook the truck with the magnesium chloride up to it, and you just basically rototill it into that roadway, and then you just keep moving, hit the next one. We are reclaimed about 56 miles of gravel road, which is a process somewhere between our normal maintenance and a complete rebuild of that roadway. And we're still learning some lessons with that. We've got some challenges. A couple of roads we've worked on. We have some challenges when they're moist. We haven't had a lot of moisture in the last 5 or 6 weeks, but Sunday night I plan on standing on a few of those roads and trying to evaluate what's gone on. We've pulled some core samples, we've looked at materials, but like any new program, you learn some lessons as you go, and that is going to make us more efficient. Our pavement, using PPRT dollars, we got 44 miles of surface treatment done. You can see we've got a long list of capital projects that we're working on here. I want to highlight Charter Oak Ranch Road using the MAMSIP grant. We're going to work with CDOT and our partners to get 819 access to Fort Carson. Falcon Park and Ride, that project is underway. It's kind of exciting to see all the work that's going on out there between that and the roundabout and New Meridian connection. It'll be much more efficient when that's all accomplished. And then when CDOT gets on their next set of projects out there as well. On this chart, I want to highlight Grinnell and Fontaine. This is an example of unexpected challenges. We had a motorist hit one of the signal poles in that intersection, damaged the signal pole to the point where it's unsafe. It's about a 35-year-old signal, doesn't meet current standards, so we are going to have to replace that entire intersection and accelerate that. It wasn't on our list anywhere, and that's about $900,000 we got to find to take care of that. Bradley and Grinnell is another one. The increased traffic with the Amazon structure down there is another one that popped up on us, and we're doing a traffic study, and we're working on that. On this chart, I'll highlight Baptist Hodgin roller coaster. We get a lot of calls, a lot of conversation about that intersection. Once the traffic study is complete, we will change the footprint of that intersection and move forward, and that's probably a couple of years out to get that accomplished, but I look forward to that. And then with all the growth occurring east in the county, we're taking a good look at the concept for what to do out in Peyton and improve challenges out there. Some of our successes, COVID-19 we've talked about. I had to follow the county rock star on the way up here to the briefing, but we kept doing what we keep doing. With the support of public health, with the support of OEM, with the support of facilities, and with HR's assistance in getting screeners at our building, we've been able to maintain a great deal of efficiency in our operation. Slowed us down for a couple of weeks, but we got into a rhythm. And we just have to maintain some discipline in terms of, I tell employees constantly, wash your hands, wear your masks, take care of each other, and we've been very fortunate so far. Stormwater quality management program, we're a couple of years into this process of out and inventorying our stormwater systems that are out there, what's out there. We have taken over the stormwater review in partnership with PCD on the new developments, and there's a whole lot of work there. Last year we talked about asset management. The asset manager, filling that position has been a challenge. It took us about a year to find someone to take that position at what we can afford to pay. That person is now on board, been here for about 2 months. The next step is to award the software and start the inventory of our assets and then start making risk-based asset management decisions with the funding available. So about a 5-year program. We're probably about a year behind because of the hiring challenges that we face, but we will get accelerated and get caught up on that as rapidly as we can. We'll talk about transparency on road quality. A year or so ago, it seems like a lifetime ago, we got in the bus and we went out and talked about pavement quality. And we had the data that we pulled from that in 2018. With the assistance of PIO, on November 1st, that data will go live and public facing on the internet so citizens can look at the conditions of their roadway. Natalie and Ryan and those folks have been working hard on helping us put some context around that with a report about how the roads get there, what the condition is, why there are certain roads that we're not currently resurfacing because it's not economical to do that. and how big that list is. In addition, we've done a lot of work, as you all well know, in terms of conveying and working with our partner municipalities on annexing some of the areas that are appropriate for them to annex. Some of those happen faster than others, and some of those create more challenges for us than others. And I'm not big at blowing our own horn, but for the West Side Avenue Action Plan project, we recently received the American Public Works Association for the great work that was done on that project. Normally I go to a big lunch in Denver and get some rubber chicken, but I guess it'll show up down here and we'll get to present it in front of the board at a later date. So excellent work by the team on that project. Excellent example of partnering with other organizations. Forget the charts don't move themselves. Asset management program we talked about as an opportunity for us. Starting the work on PPRTA next step. If that extends, what projects we would like to see done on that. Continuing to work on revisions of the engineering criteria manual and drainage criteria manual, which will assist Craig and his department, assist my staff in cleaning up some of the challenges in that, meet current standards. It's a slow-moving process, and we're looking at ways to streamline that. It'll also help the development community understand it and be able to comply with it more efficiently. Programmatic shortfall report's an interesting one. You know, if you think of the model that we put together for you all on the pavement quality and the data behind that and understanding the data behind that. I've challenged my staff to do that in all of our capital areas and all of our areas of maintenance so that I can come to you and articulate with data to back it up what our shortfalls are in everything from signage to mowing to striping to pavement to gravel road maintenance and what those things are and allow you to strategize on how to attack that. We talked about transparency. The other thing we're going to do in terms of transparency after we go live with the pavement quality data, I've asked my staff to publish, with the help of PIO, our coming schedule for the next 2 weeks using all the social media tools that are available to us, using Nextdoor, so we can not surprise citizens when we're doing work in their area. People get excited when they see 8 or 10 county pieces of equipment on their roadway that they didn't know were coming. They get concerned about when we work on drainage, things like that. So in order to reduce the amount of calls that I get, the amount of calls that you get from citizens who are surprised by things, we just want to stop surprising people. Like any schedule, it doesn't survive first contact, so things will change on a daily basis, but it gets us to about a 75-80% solution in telling the public what we're doing. So I look forward to that, and it also makes it a little bit more predictable for my workforce as well. Challenges, we have a few. Obviously, with the growth in the county, the volume on our roadways is becoming significantly higher. There's a percentage of our gravel roads that probably should be paved and not gravel. I don't have the funding to do that, but what it does is force us to pull maintenance assets and put more frequent maintenance on those gravel roads. One of the things we've done is partner with the sheriff's office on data collection. They use a device that's Bluetooth enabled, solar powered to collect speed data, and we are able to collect volume data from those same devices. So it's been a good partnership with them. We could pick up the phone, call one of the traffic deputies, and they'll put those on roads that we have questions on and gather that data for us very quickly. It's much more efficient for spot traffic data collection than some of the processes we've used previously. 811, I got a whole chart on that somewhere. We'll talk about that, but it's one of our critical needs we're going to need just based on the data from the month that we've been doing that in a pilot program. That also goes live November 1st as a requirement. We're probably going to need at least 3 FTE to get that program under control. Our pavement maintenance backlog. You can see that 28% of our roads don't meet minimum standards from industry standards for pavement quality data. At our current funding rates, by 2028, that'll be over 1,100 miles. We talked about to maintain the existing PQI, if you could reach into your back pocket and find an additional 10 million, which you'll see listed as a critical need, but I know it's not there. I just felt like I needed to put that on the record that we're continuing to degrade in our pavement quality. We do overlay about 2% of our roadways, which is a shortfall every year, so those numbers will continue to degrade. On the capital construction program, I'll just get to the bottom line. We are, with the growth in the county, we are losing ground in this area every year to the tune of roughly $24 million a year. I know we don't have a solution to that, but again, I feel like it's my duty to tell you that. Gravel road maintenance. Yeah, we are in somewhere between a 60 and 80-year cycle of rebuilding gravel roads. That's why we started the gravel road reclamation process. In the first full year, we're still doing data collection, still working out some of the kinks, still waiting for some of the equipment to get that process as efficient as we possibly can. In terms of our actual gravel re-graveling, where we rebuild gravel roads, we are somewhere between 11 and 16 miles a year doing that. Did a working group last week, tried to figure out how to increase that number. There's some challenges with material and haul and labor. We may increase our haul by contracting some of that out. It's just a question of sequencing and timing, but my goal in 2021 is to double that number. Reduce the amount of maintenance we have to do on a road once it's fresh. I don't know if I can get there, but we're going to try. 811, I think we've covered this a little bit, but you can see right in the middle of the chart there, just in the last month when we've been doing this, we're averaging 75 locates a day that we have to do, 37 of which are having to be in the field. I've got one person doing this. In addition to doing this, that person is also writing all of our policies and processes and ordering the right equipment to do this with. And like a lot of things, we're learning on the fly here. So you'll see our estimate for the initial impacts on this is that, we needed three additional FTE to take care of that. And again, I know frequently this group talks about unfunded mandates, and this is a fine example of that. In addition, there's some legislative challenges that CCI is working on, trying to change the requirement to go out and do locates every time we touch a gravel road. And I've got between 23 and 26 graders out every day, and those locates are done in short segments, so each grader gets about 10 segments a day that has to be located. On the funding side of the house, you'll see that it looks a little bit different because with the help of finance and Sherry's staff, we've moved the engineering salary expenses from Fund 2 to Fund 1 to free up some space in Fund 2 should additional funds come available in there. We've talked about 3 of the 4 critical needs on my list. The last one I'll talk about is we have an ADA requirement for snow removal on sidewalks. Typically, a business owner or homeowner is responsible for removing snow on the sidewalk in front of their property. But as we went through this process, we figured out there are long segments of sidewalk that aren't adjacent to anybody's property and nobody else has responsibility for them, and we need some funding to the tune of about $250,000 a year to contract that effort out and get that taken care of to avoid getting ourselves in some trouble on the ADA side of the house. With that, I'll take your questions.
Questions for Mr. Cuthbertson? Commissioner Manworth.
Yes, thank you. So I think the work that your team is doing is great, and there's a lot of things that you've been able to achieve over the last couple of years. I'm going to mention a couple of them because they mean a lot to me. One is really working hard towards getting better fleet management and the capital investment to allow our labor resources to become more efficient. But then more than that, really collaborating with CDOT to get Ute Pass paved and the connections between that and the Cascade intersection that we remodified when that paving went through, which allows for the right turn lane coming out of Cascade going east down 24 to reduce the backup of people coming off of the Pikes Peak Highway going to the top of Pikes Peak. That's really great because that's COVID's kind of a different year, but for the times that I've been up there, this year, I have seen no backups on that road. Now, maybe COVID is the main reason for that, but I'd say probably it isn't, because there are people driving up Pikes Peak, so it looks to me like that intersection is working a whole lot better. West Side Area Action Plan, West Colorado, really, really tough job. Costs more than it should have, but it's done, and it really looks fantastic. I think that's going to do a lot of great things for revitalization of that area on West Colorado Avenue, and so I appreciate the super hard work, and that was a difficult project, as we all know. Just something here recently, the resolution of the challenges between Red Rocks and the residents on High Street. We just did this by consent, but you did all the groundwork to make it happen, to allow for parking only on one side of the street, which I think is going to help them have a safer neighborhood and reduce some of the overage parking that they were complaining about. And I've been occasionally, and I've forwarded them to you when I've gotten them, but occasionally getting compliments from constituents on gravel repairs, and it's nice to get those compliments.
They don't come very often, Commissioner.
Yeah, well, it seems to me like they're coming a little more often than they were, so I think that's a good sign. And then I'm forgetting the name of the street, but it's way south in my district. You paved that street. Thank you.
Fair Road.
And that I got compliments from residents down there as well. There were a lot of people actually that used that road, and it was apparently quite the mess, but it is repaved. So I want to thank you for that. I do have kind of a thing that I want to figure out how to work, and it's not necessarily a response we have to have for today, because I think your presentation is super. But, you know, we've done this investment in vehicles. We've done this investment in repair bays and wash stations and all these kinds of things. All of this is designed to improve efficiencies. So we should be seeing, as a result of that, an increase in the number of lane miles that we're able to get to, whether that's a repaving or, you know, redoing of gravel or increased number of repairs. So maybe you have this in your plan, but I'm kind of interested in seeing what we were able to get done in the past, and then with this new investment, or these new investments, what we're able to do today with the same number of labor hours, essentially the same number of labor hours. So that's something I do want to see. To me, it's intuitive that it should be better, but I'd like to actually see those numbers.
And I know we've had this conversation a few times, Commissioner. I don't like to use the word anecdotally because it's one of your favorites, but I mean, anecdotally, I'll give you an example of a snowstorm. 5 years ago, when I arrived here, our typical call out for a snow shift was about 29 or 30 trucks on a good day. If that storm was extended over a few days, that number went down dramatically due to maintenance issues and things breaking. In the last year, every storm we've been hovering around 40 to 42 trucks available for each shift on the storm. And that number, because of the quality of that equipment, stays high. I know, and it's hard for me to capture, but I know that with the combination of the anti-icing equipment and the reliability of that equipment, it reduces the number of hours we spend on the road moving snow. With our graveling program, you know, we have a number of different limiting factors on that, so it's harder to capture that. But you know, with the reliability, the sustainment of the equipment, and the ability that I know that every operator will get into a truck or a grader on every day that will function, I will say, you know, we're 5 to 10% more efficient on a daily basis. I'm trying to find a way to capture that in lane miles, as you've asked for. But just to give you an idea, you know, we strive every day to be more efficient. We're kind of ruthless about it, if you will. And, you know, we can shave the corners on the challenges that we face by 5 to 10, maybe 15% in each programmatic area by doing those things. But we've got some daunting challenges that we face. So I will work on a formula to get you the information you're seeking. I just haven't found it yet. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the update on why having newer equipment, reduces the maintenance costs and time, which is very, very important, and why we continue to support that. This is the area that I continue to get the most amount of calls on, our roads and maintenance infrastructure for the county, and so I have always emphasized this as a priority for the county, and it does seem that it is the area that, because of just inflation in cost and maintenance, this is where we start falling a little bit more behind on how do we need to catch up. And so getting additional dollars here, I think, is vital for long-term smart growth of the city and maintaining the strong economy in the county that we have. And so I'll continue to support additional funds to this. I believe in the 5-year plan that'll be coming up later today. We'll talk about how those are planned to get you additional dollars next year. I would be open to forwarding one-time dollars to get you to that level this year, if possible. And if there's anything else I can do, if I can get you an extra $1 million, if I can get you an extra $3 million, I'd be more than happy to. But we'll do what we can. But this is an area that I always continue to prioritize and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, we all work to do those things for sure. One of the things I want to acknowledge here is that we have no more important mission than providing that public infrastructure, roadways, bridges, what have you, the stuff that you do. Yet, because of the way things are designed, you're always the first person to get cut, right? I mean, we have to keep deputies out patrolling the roadways. We have a lot of mandates that come down from the state. A lot of mandates that come down from the federal government that require us to spend our dollars in a certain way. And because of that, roads are what always gets cut. And it's, one of those things I wish we had a better solution for. I wish we could take care of those needs to a much greater degree, but, the citizens have spoken and said, we don't want to increase taxes, and I get that and understand that and appreciate that. Man, I don't want to do that either. But at some point, there are only so many dollars that are available for us to use, and we do the absolute best we can, but I think you have one of the toughest jobs of, any of the directors that are going to roll through here, because we have such a great need and so few resources to be able to accomplish the need. So I wish I had something better to say to you, but at a minimum, I wanted to acknowledge the difficult task you have as the Director of Public Works, that's for sure. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you. And I'll throw a shout out to my staff. Our folks work their tails off. They're responsive. They're creative. We had an issue at an intersection the other night that was hit in a traffic crash. My folks were able to figure out with a generator how to get that signal back up and running prior to rush hour. So just kind of an interesting small vignette of what our folks do. And I will tell you and everyone else, we will do the best we can with whatever funding we have. And we'll just continue to do the best we can with the funds we have, be as efficient with it as we can, and then after that, the infrastructure is what it is.
Yeah, well, again, thanks for all you do. And it's, unfortunate we can't put more dollars your direction, that's for sure, for a lot of reasons. So, but thank you. All right, with that, we are going to take a brief recess for a comfort break, and we'll come back in 5-10 minutes and continue. All right, we'll come back to order. Sorry about that delay. I had to take care of a little bit of personal business there. I apologize for that. Next up, Ms. Cassidy in Financial Services.
Thank you. Sherry Cassidy, Chief Financial Officer for Financial Services. Above is our organization chart. We have 85 full-time employees, 2 part-time, 2 interns, and 2 CARES-funded temporaries right now. For Financial Services, we're responsible for the fiscal integrity of El Paso County. We ensure to the public that their funds are being used in the most cost-effective manner. Financial Services has 4 divisions. It's employee benefits and medical services, budget, contracts and procurement, and finance. For employee benefits and medical services, the division manager for that is Renee Mabe. She takes care of all the employees' benefits and their dependents. She makes sure that open enrollment is up and operating, gets everybody enrolled in benefits every year. The flu shot clinics, the medical clinics at both CSC and regional, the Reach Your Peak Wellness Program, and then individual and class fitness trainers. And she coordinates FEMLA with our HR department, and then also the American with Disabilities Act for our employees. The budget division, this is actually listed as 15 staff, but 4 of those staff are people that are just paid from budget. So the county controller, budget specialist, compliance analyst, and myself are paid from the budget staff. Lori Cleaton is the budget manager, and she has the other 10 staff under her. They're responsible for, of course, this whole budget process we're going through right now. The monthly board reports, monthly department and offices, we meet with them every month to go over their budgets to make sure everything is going fine with them. And then the sales tax calculations, property tax calculations. This year, again, they just found out Tuesday that we received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the budget that we submitted for 2020. So we did get that again. That's great. Contracts and procurement, they have 10 staff. Eileen Gonzalez is the division manager for them. They make sure that our budgeted items and services are properly, fairly, and legally acquired. They deal a lot with federal, state, and local regulations. They have to make sure that if it's FEMA money, that it's bid out properly. If it's CARES money, that it's tracked and bid out properly. And then the same thing with the state, and then just with our normal local procurement policy. And then they also do all of the surplus, so they decide if they can reuse it, sell it, salvage it, or just dispose of it. My biggest division is the finance division. They have 55 staff, and that is overseen by Debbie Perry. She's the division manager. They make sure that every dime that comes in or out of El Paso County for the actual county services runs through our finance division. They also coordinate all of the external audits and any federal and state audits that we have. So we've got quite a few audits going all the time throughout the year. We will have a big CARES audit also when all of this funding is done. They ensure compliance with various statutes and accounting standards. That group also processes all of our payroll checks. They have a team who investigates DHS fraud clients. And they were also the recipient of the Excellence in Financial Reporting for 2019. They've gotten that award for the last several years. The goals for financial services, we pretty much touch every goal that's out there, so I listed all 5 of those. For capital projects, we are managing one of the capital projects from the fire floods. The CDBG-DR grant for the Riverside Mobile Home Park acquisition is still going on. We still have one other project left over from the fire and flood, which Parks is managing that, and that's the Hanson Trailhead. And we just finished the Willow Springs, so we're almost through with all of the fire and flood projects. Budgetary highlights, we have been highly impacted from the COVID-19 and the CARES funding. That's taken a lot of staff time to take care of that, and I just wanted to thank each one of them for all the extra efforts during this pandemic. Specifically, there's been a couple of accounts payable staff that's really all they're doing. We've got an accountant that's assigned strictly just to CARES, one of our budget analysts, our grants analyst, the compliance analyst, and our controller, Nikki, and then also April, our budget specialist. All of these staff, they've all got their regular duties to do, but they've been pulled off of those to make sure that we're spending the CARES funding properly. We also hired 2 temporary employees for the CARES processing and tracking, and they're down in accounts payable. And then we also are making sure with the implementation, distribution, and oversight of the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, and of course the CARES funding. And I also wanted to thank IT for all of their help. We would have never been able to get our staff out of the office and being able to work from home if it wasn't for all of their efforts to get us the laptops we needed for our staff and make sure that we had the connections available. So we've got almost all of our staff working from home. The only ones that can't really work from home full-time are those that handle cash. So kind of similar to with the treasurer's office, you just can't do that from home. So other than that, we've pretty much gone teleworking full-time. Part of that is under the CARES projects, we've redesigned a lot of our processes to allow them to work from home. So we have the AP automation project going on right now, so that'll be a complete workflow, mostly touchless. An invoice will come in through email, be able to be put into the system, and no matter where the accounts payable person is, out in the other department, then they can put it through the J.D. Edwards system, and then our staff then can verify it, track it, and then push it on through without needing to be in the office to do that. Contracts and Procurement is developing a website with BidNet so that all of the bids can come in virtually and that they can do the bid opening without having staff in. Employee benefits, they have hardly been in the office at all since March. They were able to get their processes together, and they've been in contact with employees. They come in like partial days and just check the mail, and that's really the only thing they're coming in for. The shared workspace project, that's going to allow our staff to continue to work from home and then have the cubicles that they can come into on those days that they do need to come into the office. And then we've seen that it's maintained our service levels. It's also improved our service levels in some areas. This is our base budget. For 2021, we're at $3.15 million. That includes the 2% for the investment in human capital. These other items, the $150,000 grant match program, that's a countywide program that we'd asked for last year. We weren't able to fund it, so we're going to asking to fund it this year for 2021. This would be for these little grants that if a department or office has a grant opportunity, but so for example, if it's a $100,000 grant and they need a 20% match, but they don't have $20,000 in their budget, they could ask us to help out with the match, and then we could help get some of these little grants like this. And it enables more opportunities to apply for grants requiring matching funds that otherwise wouldn't be available. The next item is also a countywide item. This is the $3 million project to get the treasurer and assessor system off of the VAX and into a next generation system. The annual license fees on this system is $400,000. This has been in the roadmap the last several years, and the project will be finished in 2021, and that's when we'll have to start paying the license fee. And then the other item that was on the roadmap in 2020, but we pulled it off in 2021, or we didn't pull it off, we postponed it, is the Enterprise Resource Planning System, the ERP system. And with J.D. Edwards, that's been in place since 1999. We've done upgrades whenever we needed to do upgrades to it, but it's getting obsolete and it will no longer be supported after 2029. So we need to get the project started no later than 2026. It's typically a 2 to 3 year implementation. So we'd like to get it started sooner than that, but it's going to be, in today's dollars, in the range of $10 million to implement it. and then it'll be about a $1.75 million ongoing licensing fee after that. So this one, we definitely have to have it, on our roadmap. We may not fund it all up front with cash. We may try to do something a little bit different with it, possibly a COP and then pay it off over 5 years or something like that. But we just need it on everybody's radar that that is coming up, and it will have to be replaced by and in place by 2029. So you have any questions on anything?
Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate all that you guys are doing. It's been a tough year with budgeting, and of course, the CARES Act money and getting that properly implemented was certainly part of your big challenges. By the way, I'm really glad to see we're going to get off the vax in 2021. That's super.
Yeah.
But a question now on the $10 million ERP replacement. It's not in the preliminary budget, as you mentioned. It's being postponed. Does that dollar figure of $10 million have to be spent in a single year for a transition, or is it something that can be spread out?
It could be spread out. It'll probably be a 2-year implementation, so we could do a $5 million and $5 million. That's actually how we had it in the roadmap last year, is that very last year of the roadmap, it said 5, and then we were going to add the other 5 in the next one. But we've just kind of pushed it out so you don't actually see it on this year's roadmap.
Okay.
But next year's roadmap, then it'll have to be on there again in some form.
Okay. And then if we do this replacement with regard to the annual licensing fee, with the current system, J.D. Edwards, that's $1.75 million for licensing, is that correct?
It's paid for in a different manner. It's a maintenance fee that we pay every year.
Okay.
And this was calculated in to take what we're currently paying and offset, and then the remainder was going to be about a $1.75 million difference.
And the real question is, if we do transition to something else at some point down the road, do the maintenance fees or license fees go down? Can we transition to something where this $1.75 million is maybe not only just a lower number, but maybe a substantially lower number? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's where we got the budget estimates from a couple of counties that are about our size that's implemented their new ERP system. This is about what it was. So if we go less, we're not going to have as many services.
I see.
So
okay.
I think really for the county our size, this is where we're going to land.
So there's not really a way to get any savings about transitioning with regard to the maintenance or licensing fees. That's gonna be an ongoing thing.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it'll be a system that's all in the cloud. So instead of paying every couple of years, having to go in and do a major upgrade that might cost $2 million every 2 years, we just pay this annual fee then annually, and it's a constant upgrade that we have.
All right. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have economic development here? I see an economic developer. Ms. Latier, how are you?
Doing well. How is everyone doing this morning?
Doing well.
Good. Thank you for the opportunity today to speak to you about the El Paso County Economic Development Department. As mentioned, my name is Crystal Latier, and I'm the Executive Director of that department. So the first slide in front of you, you will see our small but mighty team. As you know, we implement and administer over a dozen programs within economic development, and so I just wanted to take this moment to really say thank you to the incredible staff that we have that work on all the programs that we will highlight throughout this presentation today. For those of you who haven't checked out our website recently, we did update our mission statement, so I will read that into the record now. So in El Paso County, Colorado, we take a holistic approach to economic development. Our office is uniquely tasked with serving an ever-growing region with ever-changing needs. We navigate our dynamic economic landscape with a focused approach by offering diverse incentives for businesses and leveraging federal and state resources for housing and community development. Our goal is to assist in creating a robust, diversified, and equitable economic ecosystem. So we have the pleasure of having kind of three main components within our department, and those are business incentives, community initiatives, and housing, as was just highlighted in our mission statement. Why I love this approach here at El Paso County is because it not only allows us to be more strategic, because all of those three components are very connected, but also allows us to leverage efforts between those cross-sector programs. So as we look into operations and we look at business incentives, on your slide in front of you, you will see that those highlight some of our business incentive programs. Our Enterprise Zone, Business Loan Fund, the Commercial Aeronautical Zone, Opportunity Zones, any special initiatives that we work on with direct impact to business development, as well as you all know that we act as the host agency to the SBDC, our Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center. At the conclusion of this presentation, I'll be sure to present to the clerk to the board some fun infographics that has additional data. But as we move through the presentation, I did want to highlight a few numbers regarding some of these programs. So many of you may know that with the Enterprise Zone program, which is a state tax credit program that incentivizes business development, in 2019, we certified over 400 businesses totaling more than $5 million in credits that they took advantage of. Additionally, to highlight our SBDC, which is a component unit of our department, in 2019 they performed over 1,045 new and unique client sessions. And I know many on the board know this, but I did want to highlight that our Pikes Peak SBDC was recently given the Excellence in Innovation Award, which is very important because there was one SBDC selected throughout Region 8, which is a 6-state region. And so Pikes Peak SBDC was honored with that accomplishment. And so we've definitely continued to strengthen our collaboration between SBDC and our department, especially in COVID-19 response. As we've discussed before, many of the grant relief programs that we've stood up within our department have also been coupled with business support services offered by SBDC. As we look at our community initiative components, that really is comprised of three main programs. Our Community Development Block Grant Program, known as CDBG, as well as the Enterprise Zone Contribution Project Program, and our ability to issue bonds for nonprofits. So just a few highlights there is that, as you know, the CDBG program is a federally funded, fairly flexible program through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and that allows us to serve persons of low to moderate income outside the city limits. And we've seen great success in that program, and that program stood up in 2009, so relatively new. This has allowed many of our rural agencies access to this federal funding. Additionally, with COVID response, our office was granted an additional $1.2 million in CDBG CV funding, which we've presented in front of you earlier this year, but will continue to implement throughout the region. Additionally, the Enterprise Zone Contribution Project Program is part of the business incentive program that I mentioned earlier, but the unique component to this portion is that it allows us to work with nonprofits and stand up contribution projects, which really would allow any local residents to donate to campaigns and receive a 25% state income tax credit. And so that's a very robust and great philanthropic program within our region. In 2019, our office processed more than 4,000 contributions, totaling nearly $12 million in the region. And I always like to highlight our ability to issue nonprofit bonds in the region. Last year, you likely noted that we continued this partnership by issuing bonds for Colorado College, which is a great asset to our community. Again, our ability to issue bonds does not mean that we obligate the county nor its taxpayers to any debt at all. So the last component we'd like to speak about today is the housing, our housing programs, which despite COVID have had a very strong year. So wanted to highlight some of those great programs on the slide deck there. So as you know, we act as staff to a very non-traditional housing authority known as the El Paso County Housing Authority. Why I say it is non-traditional is because we do not own any housing, nor do we operate any housing choice vouchers. Instead, what we do is administer a local source of funds known as the Housing Trust Fund. This is a completely self-sustaining revolving fund, no tax dollars are paid into it, that allows us to make low-interest loans to developers in the region to assist with affordable housing development. We've also had a very successful year in our Turnkey Plus program, as well as issuing private activity bonds in our region. So a few highlights to note as of this year. This week, we're happy to announce that Freedom Springs opened. This is the permanent supportive housing complex for formerly homeless veterans. This is 50 units of permanent supportive housing in unincorporated El Paso County. So that is currently open this week. They are moving veterans in, and though they're not having a large-scale ribbon cutting due to COVID-19, they are offering tours to folks who would like to see the development. And I had the pleasure of touring earlier this week, and it's an extraordinary asset to our community, so we're very excited about that. Additionally, within the last year, El Paso County Housing Authority has made nearly $2 million in commitments to help projects move forward in the affordable housing realm through the Housing Trust Fund. Probably most significant to note is the incredible year we've had with the single-family Turnkey Plus program. So despite COVID, we have seen a continued increase for the demand for down payment assistance. So that Turnkey Plus program offers a partially forgivable loan to folks who are looking at purchasing a home here in El Paso County. So far this year, we've assisted 243 families and allowed them to become homeowners in our region. Also, since December of 2009, our office has issued more than $82 million in private activity bonds, which will help with the development of over 500 new units of affordable housing, as well as acquire and rehab an additional 160 units of housing. So it's been a really strong year for our housing programs, which I think is really important and great to note as we move in through economic recovery. We've continued to hear that El Paso County has had a strong construction and housing market continue on, and so I think that will be very beneficial to us as we move through the pandemic. And then lastly, just wanted to quickly highlight some of the operational pivots and innovative programming that we came up with due to COVID-19. And these are programs that I've already presented in front of you earlier this year, but I think are important to note, again, because of the impact they've created. The first one was the Pikes Peak Enterprise Zone Business Relief Fund. Why this program was so important? Because it was the first grant program stood up in our region to assist businesses. This provided grant funds for businesses located in enterprise zones, which are our most distressed areas of our community, in the form of grants of $7,500. Additionally, we continue to hear from our 501c4s and 6s how they were left out of many of the federal relief funding packages. So El Paso County stood up an innovative program to help them with relief. In addition, why I think that was so imperative is because these are our business support agencies, our chambers, our downtown partnerships, not only agencies that help with economic recovery, but help our small businesses access capital, not just local capital, but state and federal capital. So if they can have that support, they can continue to access the capital. So I think timing worked out well that we were able to support 501c6s and 4s, and then stand up the El Paso County Regional Business Relief Fund, which you all know about. I'm super excited to say that we started mailing out checks just last week. So those funds are going out, and again, that helped 864 businesses in our region, and that program totaled nearly $13 million. And then lastly, I previously noted that our office will be administering additional CDBG-CV funds to the tune of about $1.2 million. And those have really been reserved and allocated to nonprofit agencies in our region who are helping with things like rent and utility assistance, food bank assistance, healthcare services, transportation services. And so definitely a need we're seeing and we're happy to help address. So the programs above denote an investment of more than $17.5 million in federal funding that has been programmed and deployed to economic and community initiatives to assist with recovery within our region. I will quickly go through these. All the programs I mentioned, most of which are federal and state in nature, they do come with those darn mandates. So we are keeping a close eye on all mandates and state statutes as they relate to our programming. On your screen in front of you, you'll see that the Opportunity Zones is a federal program we look at, as well as CDBG, SBA, private activity bonds, and of course with the COVID funding, we continue to monitor those statutes and mandates. When we're looking at the state level, our enterprise zone, our commercial aeronautical zone, private activity bonds, and then our housing authority is also governed by additional state statutes. So on the screen in front of you, you will note our strategic plan goals and operating indicators. So all the goals noted are part of the El Paso County overall strategic plan. These strategic plan goals are also included within our programmatic strategic goals. So many of our programming, being federal and state in nature, require ongoing strategic plans. So it is very important to us that we make sure that all of our programming in El Paso County aligns not only with El Paso County strategic plan, but some of our federal and state goals as well. So moving forward, we're really looking at how we can help local businesses continue to access capital. And then our office will also continue to further support our regional economic development ecosystem by looking into maybe some more innovative business incentive approaches moving forward. Also on the agenda for 2021 is the ACE Tour, so America's Competitiveness Exchange. At this point, the U.S. Department of Commerce has confirmed that that will be rescheduled August 1st through 6th, 2021. Additionally, our office will be hosting the National Association for County, Community, and Economic Development. So that again is a national conference, an affiliate of NACO, that brings together community and economic developers. So as we all know, we have an incredible region. So it's really wonderful that coming out of this pandemic and next year we have things to look forward to. And I think we will not only be able to show how we have that incredible economic development ecosystem, but how we had such a collaborative approach to this pandemic that has really will allow us to fare better for economic recovery as we move on. So before we get to the budgetary slide, I just wanted to make mention that because of partnerships, we're able to effectively and efficiently operate. So all the programs noted on the slide deck in front of you show how we're able to leverage other opportunities and funding within the region that allows what I think our requests for funding to be significantly small. So on your slide, you will see our base budget, and I'm actually asking for a reduction. Who does that? Right. But only because that's due to the removal of the 27th pay period. Trying to end on a high note there. And I am happy to answer any questions.
For sure, any questions for Crystal? Sure.
I've got no questions, just want to say thank you. I mean, the work you've done to help support businesses and economic development, especially this year. Wow, it's been great. Just keep up doing the great work. And I guess maybe we do need to establish an award for actually requesting less money in the following year. So I like that idea. Anyway, thanks, great. Thanks very much. And thank you to the team. Tell the team thanks.
Yes, incredible team, thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I just wanted to reiterate the great work that was done during the situation, trying to keep our small businesses strong. You know, just to highlight, I think we did 4 projects in terms of funding through the CARES Act for our small businesses, chambers, and associated nonprofits that helped residents directly, and then directly to small businesses, twofold, I think, opportunity zones, and then directly to all the eligible small businesses in the county. So again, thank you for all that great work. I know it's a lot of hard work, and every department has been going through so much through COVID, but I just wanted to highlight how much you did to help our small businesses and our residents during this and continuing through this time. Thank you.
Well, yeah, it was a tall order to be able to distribute that CARES funding in a transparent and equitable way. And I know we had talked about outsourcing some of that, but it just, at the end of the day, those are more dollars that we wouldn't have been able to put into the hands of small business owners. And I know it's a tall order to ask you all to take up that task, but I really just, personally appreciate you doing that. And I'm sure the extra 10 or 15 businesses we were going to be able to help out as a result of doing that in-house are also incredibly thankful as well. So great work.
Yeah, thank you for your continued support. We have started a file within our office called Notes of Gratitude, and it is truly heartwarming to hear the gratitude that has come out of these programs. So we'll be sure to share those. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is PIO. And for the record, he gave me a ride in to work today, and I think he only did that knowing that budget presentations were here. Otherwise, he would have said no.
Commissioner, you're on to me. I don't like it. Hey, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to address you all today. I'll try to make it pretty brief here, but through that briefness, I don't want to diminish the great work that's been done by this department this year. So, organizational chart, we, like Crystal, are a small but mighty team, and we definitely do a lot. What's not reflected in this is that during 2020, we've used some of the CARES Act funding to hire some temporary assistants, which has greatly been a force multiplier. So those two part-time staffers aren't on this organizational chart, but that's not to diminish the work. This is just to communicate what our full-time regular staffing levels are. So our mission, if you will, is to facilitate accurate information to the public, and I can't think of a more critical year where that's been on display than this year. We accomplish our goal through a couple of means, whether it be direct communication with citizens, whether it be through earned media, whether that be through our cable channel or through our social media avenues. So certainly been doing a lot with that. 2020 changed our operations significantly. Natalie Sosa and I met with Michelle Hewitt earlier this year, sometime in February, and it became apparent that this was a huge train that was coming down the tracks, more than one or two people in public health would be able to handle on their own. And so within that day, we shifted our entire operations, and we've been supporting public health to a large or to small degree, mostly a large degree, ever since. And we're appreciative of that opportunity. We like the fact that as a department, we can be an internal service provider or an external service provider. We serve the citizens and we serve our fellow county employees. And I also have to give a shout out. A lot of the directors were really cooperative with us shifting direction. If you listen to what Scott was talking about earlier, some of the other directors, we had projects planned for this year, some of which we had to put on hold while we dealt with COVID, and really appreciate the other directors supporting us as we shifted gears to serve the public in a different way. Obviously, challenges like a lot of other people, we've been working hard during this time. Sustaining our current workload will be a challenge during this, but we're happy to do it. And then a decline in the cable franchise fee that's charged is another ongoing challenge as people cut the cord. But when it comes to opportunities, there's a tremendous amount of things that we can do that will be positive both for the county and for our community. And that's outlined here, but a lot of it has to do with COVID and revamping the way that we support other operations. So when it comes to highlights, I want to do things a little bit different and really highlight the work that's been done by some of our tremendous staff. So many people have stepped up and answered the call, if you will, when it comes to doing their jobs and doing it well, that I wanted to highlight that. So with social media, wanted to talk about this. Look at the amount of post impressions. These are people that we have touched directly, some of them obviously multiple times because we don't have 2.2 million people living in our community, but each of those are touches where we've been trying to get a message out about the county. I also want to talk about core requests. Last year, we brought on a core specialist, which has been a tremendous value added to our team. Last year, we processed about 70 CORAs. We've more than doubled that this year. If you look at the number of pages worked and documents released, that's a tremendous amount of workload for one person to do. And then we had 5 mega CORAs.
Is that a technical term, mega CORA?
It's an internal technical term, and what that means is that it's a core request where the person is asked for so many documents over such a long period of time that we have to work with them to get permission to exceed the statutory timeframes that are associated with the core request. And sometimes they actually take months to fulfill, and the requester has to work with us to waive their legal rights there. And so, while that goes into the 150 plus process, they probably represent a dozen CORAs each when you look at all the things that go into that. But I like that term, so hopefully it catches on. #MegaCora. We've also been trying to professionalize our approach to CORAs, and if this doesn't mean anything to you, this page, you probably don't have a master's degree in math like Mike Mattson does, but what this represents is that as each CORA has come in, we've looked at, or Mike has looked at the data of how many hours it takes based on, say the number of emails and everything else, and all that data goes into some formula that I don't understand because I don't have a master's degree in math. But this represents a very accurate way that if we get a core request, we do the search for documents and it comes back with a certain number of documents, we can tell from this exactly how much it's going to charge or how many hours it's going to take. And that's a far cry from how we did it before, where it was a lot of guesswork. So big shout out to him for professionalizing this process. When it comes to our AV and PIO, we've done a number of releases, a number of videos produced. One of the big things I want to shout out for AV is that when COVID knocked, they answered the call by making sure that our meetings moved not only remote for people participating, but remote for the citizens that wanted to watch. And that ensured that we kept transparency and communication open with the public, and that was a massive lift for them. Other things that they've done, their own repairs, major technical projects that were undertaken. Certainly been busy. When it comes to the AV side as well, there's a lot of clutter out there in the world, and it's hard to get people's attention. But one of the things that we've done is we've invested in the sort of equipment that really highlights how much better we can make things look to catch people's attention. So what you're seeing here on the screen is some of the stuff from before with the old equipment, and then we transition to some of the things with the new equipment, taking our time to get shots well, to portray the county in the best possible light, and help break through the clutter by showing people something a little bit different than what they're seeing. And some of these things that you're seeing have to do with our support for the Small Business Administration, some videos that we put together for that. So I really want to commend them for the effort that they've made to greatly up their game in the production. So I also talked about our support for public health. So the numbers I showed earlier for social media were just for the county social media. This is what we did on top of our normal work to support public health. A lot of impressions, a lot of benefits there. Generating specific graphics for them to help them out with their campaigns and everything else. Also wanted to hit on real quickly, last year this board gave us some money to work the 2020 census. And while we can't take credit for all of it. I want to point out that in El Paso County, our response rate has been significantly higher this time around than it has been in previous years, and that translates into real dollars for our community. If you accept what they said last time, that's $10,000 per year per person. That doesn't take the census. $100,000 person. Any sort of increase is directly impactful for our community. And so a little bit of a summary here of some of the things that we produce that we did, whether it be the billboards, the graphic design, the social media campaigns, and everything else to help do our part to make sure that people are taking the census. So all that's to say, no changes or requests. Noticing how much you guys like the fact that Crystal's 27th paying cycle was taken out, ours was too, so technically we're asking for less money, but since our department's a little bit bigger, we're asking for more of less than what Crystal did. So just want to point that out. If there's an award, I want to be in contention for that. Any questions for PIO?
Anything for PIO? Yeah, it's, great work this year. One of the things I don't think was highlighted in here, and I'm not sure how you do it, is the support you give to other agencies. I know, especially public health, how much they've had to lean on you this year to get help to do the job, and that's, you don't get extra budget for that. The way the city of Colorado Springs has leaned on you as well to put stuff together for COVID. Other I could go on and on and on, and I know that there's not extra dollars in the budget for that. So I just wanted to highlight and recognize that as well, and say thanks for all the great work you do.
Thank you, Commissioner. Certainly my staff, if they were here, would love to hear that too, because we've all worked nights, weekends, long extra hours, not a lot of sleep and everything else, especially during the worst of it. And so my hat off to them for the way that they've each stepped up, because I couldn't do it by myself.
For sure. Thanks for your great leadership there.
Thank you.
All right, guys, I think what we're going to do is instead of taking on the county attorney in the next 10 minutes, we will just break a little bit early for lunch. So we will stand in recess. We'll come back at 12:45. The meeting will come back to order. We're in budget presentations, and next up is County Attorney.
Good afternoon, everybody. Diana May, El Paso County Attorney. I'm honored to be able to present to you our budget presentation. I want to first start with a reminder that we do have two sides of the office. I know you generally see the civil side, but we have 15 folks on our civil side, and then we have 33 wonderful folks on our DHS side that are located in the Metro building. And as we kind of go through this presentation, I'm going to try to combine a little bit of it, because I think you guys are familiar for us. This is our civil side. You see us most of the time, and you know what we do. We represent all the different elected officials in different offices and support all the great folks and elected officials that have been doing the presentations to all of you for the past couple days. And then a big part of what we do is defend the county against lawsuits. We have the statutory and the constitutional authority to do our duties as the county attorney's office on the civil side. Moving briefly over to our DHS side, a great fun group of 33 folks that we have. This was our pajama day we had at the beginning of COVID, and I had a pajama contest for everybody, and it was a lot of fun and helped with morale a little bit. But these are the folks that support our Department of Human Service in a variety of ways. And it could be from the traditional dependency and neglect cases to the juvenile delinquent to dealing with adult protection services and the various different specialty courts we have. And they have a statutory authority under several different codes of the CRS revised statute. What do we do to support the strategic plan and goals and operating? We support, again, all the different various departments in making sure they're reaching their goals by providing that legal services to each one of them. I'm going to first start with our civil division. A good portion of my time and Lori Sego's time, and then with support from every other attorney at some point in time, has been supporting public health with COVID. And it can be from the interpreting public health orders, as Ms. Ms. Whelan told you about, to assisting with outbreaks within the community and also within the county themselves. And it's been constant. Ms. Sego usually would spend about 10% of her time doing public health, but she's been full-time, and then I've been spending probably a good 50 to 3/4 of my time also assisting with COVID. So we've been very busy with COVID and assisting public health in the various different departments. I wish I could say that we've slowed down since I told you last year about our litigation, but we haven't. Litigation is heavy, and as you can see, right now we have, and it's actually changed, we now have 41 cases as of today of current litigation cases. Unfortunately, 3 filed within the past 2 days, and we're on track to hit over 50, which will be the highest level that we've had in the history of the county attorney's office. We're very successful on getting those dismissed, and we're really proud of that. We have a great litigation team, and it can range from Cole and Lori on working land use litigation to Mary and Brian and Nate working litigation. So we all work really well together, and we're supported fantastically by 4 wonderful paralegals and also our office manager. Our notice of claims are leveling off a little bit from last year, but as you can see, that's not making any difference on the lawsuits. And then we continue to support risk management, which you heard about from the employment perspective. From the employment perspective, we support Andrea's group, from the policy manual down to reviewing each one of the attorney matters that may result in some type of discipline. 2 of the areas that I'm really proud of that we work very well with is with the sheriff's office on doing their any investigations they have concerning possible discrimination claims, which keeps one of my paralegals full-time doing that. That's her assigned work, is working with employment. And then we do a lot with training. And what the great thing is on both of those things that you'll see is we save the county a significant amount of money in doing that. So I'm very proud of that. Continuing on, this is our 6th year that we have an attorney assigned full-time to the sheriff's office. This year we've had a little bit of a transition, and we have a new attorney assigned over there, Chris, and he's doing a fantastic job. And again, a service that we provide to them is being able to do that in-house training. Obviously the numbers have tapered down on trainings, county-wide just because of COVID, but we've managed to start increasing those again through a lot more remote training. And this is 24-hour service that we're providing to the sheriff's office with regard to our legal team over there. And we have a paralegal that's assigned over there also. Land use is busy. I don't know what else to say, but it's busy. We're going to be going through a transition at the beginning of next year, as you all are aware. Cole is retiring after 25 plus years, and so that is going to be a big void to fill, but Lori will be taking his place on being the lead in that area, and we've been able to hire a new attorney to assist with kind of backfilling that, Michael. What are we doing in this area? We have litigation, as you're aware of, but we also have a huge increase of code enforcement and land review matters. This is one area you're familiar with that we are a little behind on in trying to keep up with the numbers in our code enforcement, but we have a plan, and we are going to hopefully next year be telling you that we are doing a better job keeping up with the numbers, but there's a lot of pending litigation and pending cases on code enforcement. In addition to code enforcement, we have the different type of land use matters that you see on your land use days that keep Steve, Cole, and Lori, and now Mike busy. And as you can see from these numbers, COVID has not slowed down at all development in our planning commission. We were one of the first counties that were able to still do our land use matters remotely very early on in COVID. And it has not slowed us down from anything from the Planning Commission to the water reviews. Real estate's been busy too. We have a couple different lands, properties that we're in the process of selling, as you're aware of, and it's kept us busy with regard to the legal work on that. And then also Scott's unit keeps us busy with different public work projects. My Human Service Division, although you don't necessarily see them as much as you do my civil unit, they are just as busy, and they have not missed a step or a beat with COVID. The courts didn't close down. Human service and child abuse clearly did not stop during COVID. And we are consistent with our numbers from last year on the dependency and neglect cases that our Department of Human Service side is doing. The staff there is absolutely phenomenal in supporting all the attorneys who work just nonstop and just have everyone has so much passion in their heart for this mission. But a couple areas that people don't realize that our office also does, in addition to the traditional dependency and neglect cases, are all these other areas. We do juvenile delinquency. It's a new program that we've started under Julie Crow to assist on the criminal side cases, to help with services on kids that may be in trouble from the criminal standpoint. In addition, we have mental health and probate. We're dealing with appeals. We have the first accredited program of the Family Drug Treatment Court that we're doing here and supporting them on their human service side. And in addition to that, they're providing 24-hour service on legal advice to the department, and they're doing training, answering questions, and just basically servicing Department of Human Service and doing just an incredible job at it. They work very well with the department, and we're really fortunate for that collaborative effort with the department. One of the new things that we have this year that I do want to spend just a minute talking about is we've added an attorney that is working for the Department of Human Service on the civil side. It's one of our attorneys that we've just had the opportunity to reassign some duties, but Lisa Kirkman is helping also with that collaborative effort with the Department of Human Service and doing a fantastic job. One of our challenges on the human service side is our discovery request, which is asking for records, as you can see, increased in 2019, doubled in 2019, and we're almost going to double again in 2020. So this is a huge challenge we have that we're working. We're spending a significant amount of time and energy working through that, but that is a challenge, and we're trying to work through it with current resources. But it is a challenge. Here is our base budget. As you are aware, part of our budget for the Department of Human Service side comes from the Department of Human Service. But our budget is significantly based on salary. What are my critical needs? I have none in 2021, so I'm proud to be able to say that we feel that we're going to be able to accomplish a couple of different challenges that we have with what we're doing, and some additional assistance that we've been able to get from our risk department, but we're not asking for anything this year. And I'm going to end with my annual limerick. As you know from my Christmas card, and I think Amy did the same tradition, Lori is very creative in our office on doing limericks, and here is our 2020 limerick. Each year when budget comes around, long speeches and numbers abound, but to break up the time with a lighthearted rhyme, your cat team always can be found. So any questions?
I love it. Anything for the county attorney. Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, and thank you. And I concur with Commissioner Waller's point. I love the limerick. It's awesome. And it looks like you're in competition with economic development for winning the award for reducing the budget the most between 19 and 20. Again, though, just because of the 27th pay period being removed. So appreciate that you have no additional requests there. I saw in the civil, by the way, thanks to the team, huge amount of work. It is interesting that there's increased litigation things happening in several places, and we probably over the course of this year should think about, is there anything we can do to somehow reduce that? That might be impossible. Maybe you've done an enormous amount of work in that arena already, but I've always had an interest in making sure everybody gets harassment training. I see that you're doing that in the civil division. I just think it's great to make sure that we're giving everybody in the county, all the county employees, those opportunities to go through that harassment training. When people are aware of that, it really helps to reduce potential issues. And then on the DHS vision, and thanks to everybody that's there, and I would have to agree with you, I have to imagine they have a huge amount of passion for the work that they're doing there. I did see on chart 21 that you are projecting lower numbers in several of the categories, and I was just wondering, And this is kind of in the child abuse or neglect and out-of-home placements. You look at the 19 to 20, and you just see some reductions in the numbers. Is there a reason for your expectation that the numbers will go down?
And there is, and part of it is with some of the different programs that the department and the state has implemented to still be involved, but not actually opening cases and taking kids and placing them out of home. And it's called the differential response, and so it's a good thing. They're still providing services, but if we're not opening cases, then the attorneys aren't having to be in court on that case. And so that was expected with some of the changes that the state and then Julie has also made.
Okay, great, thanks. So a change in procedure, making things a little bit more efficient?
Yes.
Kind of reduces a little bit of the legal workload on those activities?
Correct.
Super, thanks for the information.
Anything else? Thank you for your time.
Well, hang on, I have something else. I was going to say, I thought for a second about asking you how many hours a week you worked during COVID, but I figured that'd be unfair because you wouldn't adequately answer the question because I know you don't want to brag on yourself at all. But I probably should have highlighted this to public health as well. I want you to know, I have heard from countless people in our community that have talked about the outstanding job you and your staff have done through this COVID crisis. In particular, the HBA reaching out and told me how much effort you put into making sure they were able to put on a parade of homes this year. Numerous restaurant owners have reached out to me to talk about how much effort you put into them being able to get their variants, helping public health out to get the variants completed so they could continue to operate their business. And I could go on and on and on and talk about countless others. But I know as an attorney, rarely do you get praise. It's always, people don't come to attorneys for good reasons.
Right.
And so, rarely is it the circumstance where they talk about the good things you do. But I think really, truly, more than any entity throughout the county this year, I've heard from those outside sources about all the work that you and your staff have put in to, make this crisis a little bit more bearable. And in some circumstances, helping those entities, go from desperation to being able to hold on for just a little bit longer. So I want you to know I appreciate all that you and your staff have done, but so much more important than my appreciation, the community has seen what you've done probably for the first time ever, and they're truly appreciative of all the effort you've put into it. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm actually really glad you said that because I failed to mention it, and I think your points are really well taken. Thank you for bringing that up because they have done a great job in that area.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again. Facilities.
I'll help out Brian and get his, oh, nope, someone else is in the driver's seat.
This year's had zero impact on facilities, right? No issues at all?
We've been looking for things to do, Yeah. Sadly, I'll say I won't have an annual limerick to share with you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Brian Olson. I'm the Executive Director for El Paso County Facilities and Strategic Infrastructure Management. So table of contents is there for your packets purposes there, so we'll move on. So this is for facilities, this is our organizational chart. It hasn't changed since 2019. You can see here that the majority of our staff is dedicated towards facilities management. We have our architectural team they do general maintenance, mechanical team, which is HVAC and plumbing, electrical, it's obvious there. Services, which is actually contract services. They do a lot of our contracts for our custodial services, for window cleaning, carpet cleaning, pest removal, those types of things. We have an optimization team that works on a lot of our controls and how to optimize our facilities. You see there, Citizen Service Center is mentioned. It's a big facility. We have dedicated staff that have to, that actually stay there and report to that facility because of the size of the facility and the operation. Same as the Criminal Justice Center, the jail. Our property management team and our planning resources team, there are project managers and do a lot of our projects here within the county. And of course, a locksmith. As you can imagine, we have a few doors here in El Paso County and locks. We have our office management team. That's, in fact, let me say too, is our facilities management team is we have a new facilities maintenance manager. It's Mr. Randy Stacy. He's here today, and I'm glad to have him here. It's a big team and a big operation to manage, and I appreciate him. Our office manager is Ms. Shauna Huffmaster. She's here today. She's over our logistics, which is actually our stock room, our dispatch team, and then our mail room actually supports the entire county. Infrastructure project management, which is real estate transactions. We'll go more into that, and also oversees ADA, and then of course our parking operations, our parking garages. So today, our county facilities, as you know, they're responsible for the maintenance of all the county buildings, and this is all elected officials and all the different departments. I'll mention there's a typo. I'm glad to say we do not have 54 parking garages. It's actually 5 parking garages. I apologize for that. And then the mailroom. But we have 132 buildings that we manage, which is about 3.1 million square feet. So the simple math is 59 FTEs divided by the 3 million. That's almost 53,000 square foot per person that these people are responsible for, and it's significant. Our strategic infrastructure management team, if you say that 10 times fast, see how that rolls. But this division is been actually very busy this year. As you know, we've sold 301, 305 South Union. The Jura lot's under contract. They're also working. They help many departments with leases. We've reestablished the lease for the Veteran Services Center that was done this year. The DMV Uniontown Center, we helped them to renew their lease, and I would add in more favorable terms as well. And then also I'd mentioned they've also, as many of you know, the health department is buying a new building in Fountain, which is great. This team has helped them, as many of our team members have helped them as they purchase that building and how to get it operational on time that's required by the CARES funding. And then ADA, Americans with Disability Act, strategic management, infrastructure management oversees that operation as well to ensure counties in compliance with Title II requirements. And then obviously this team works with the staff and with the many departments to ensure compliance with ADA. They work with parks and they work with the Department of Public Works. It's a great team. And they also work with the public as sometimes we receive complaints and concerns on how to deal with those. So total, we have 62 FTEs within facilities. Mandates and statutes that are required, we have 2 that are significant. ADA, we just mentioned, Americans with Disability Act, it's Title II requirements, and we talked about that. If you remember, in 2019, we adopted the ADA transition plan, and that's been going well. And how we identify, in a transparent way, how we identify barriers to the community, how they come to our community, to our county buildings to access services. And we'll see a little bit more some of the great things that teams have done here this year. And then another big one is, this is a state mandate, is the county is required to provide both the courthouse and the jail. And these are significant operations that the state and obviously the sheriff operate in those, but we're tasked with maintaining those buildings and keeping a safe work environment for staff and for the community alike. I won't go through this, but this is we actually have a mission statement, a vision statement, and our guiding principles. Basically, it's how we're dedicated to maintain county facilities, to ensure that all our buildings are maintained in a safe way so that we can provide services to the community and also in a way that's financially responsible. So budgetary highlights. I'm going to go over challenges here today first. And, like many, we are challenged with the current employment market to retain and hire new talent. If you look out there, there's a lot of, in Colorado Springs, there's a lot of cranes that are working right now. The construction industry and the trades industry is very busy. And it is hard for us to compete with that private sector to retain strong people, and I'm glad that people that are here are with us and the great things that they do. As we all know, there's never enough money to go around, and there's never enough money to do what we need to do. But I want to state that facilities we do have an insufficient budget to maintain our county facilities, and what we have, we're grateful to have, and we'll continue to do great things that we do. By having a lack of funding, it does jeopardize our major functioning assets. It creates legal risks to the county for examples like ADA compliance, things like that. It creates challenges to the staff for serving citizens, because again, these are our facilities, and this is where we maintain most of our operations. And then, lack of a capital budget, which basically decreases the lifespan of many of our buildings and our major assets. But also, as we look at a lot of our equipment, by not maintaining that equipment and modernizing that equipment, it does decrease efficiencies and ultimately costs more for increased utility costs. So I want to really go over some success stories for 2020, things that we've done with our budget. And as you know, commissioners, you've been affected by a lot of construction downtown and in this building and our parking garage alone alike. But we've just almost completed an HVAC remodel of this building. And the major construction complete. Once it's fully functioning, and right now they're balancing things and getting all the equipment licensed so that we can recognize it through our computer systems. But it will increase comfort for this building. It'll increase comfort for everybody here. It'll decrease the load on our equipment. It's not going to be running so hard and running so long. And ultimately, what we want to do is then increase the life of that equipment and decrease the amount of utilities that we're spending to run it. Another great thing that I want to give a shout out to Mr. Frank Zimkus. He's our mechanical supervisor. We've started a new paperless work order system. We actually put it in place this year, and by doing this, coming into the 2020s, we've allowed our guys and gals to spend less time working on paperwork at the end of the day, trying to find, doing reports and whatnot, and stay on jobs and doing more projects. By doing this, we figure it's saved us about $300,000 a year in efficiencies and times that we've saved. It's significant. So I thank Frank for all the work and time he's put into that. You've heard about direct digital control upgrades in the past. These are DDC controls. We continue to upgrade the DDC controls. We're doing one right now. We're almost complete with the Citizen Service Center. This increases our efficiencies in the building. These are costly projects. It's over $200,000 just to do the project at CSC, just as an example. But by doing this, it will make a big difference on our efficiencies with utilities. But I'll mention is on an IT note that you may recall back, it was a couple years ago when Target was hacked, and a lot of their critical information was lost to these hackers. Those hackers came in through the DDC controls. So by upgrading these systems, it's also protecting county information as well. And I got two things it's a big deal because, we replaced rooftop units at the DMV East location and two of them at the Bear Creek Nature Center. And this is what we do, but why it's significant is in the past we've done a lot of these things. We've contracted the entire project out to replace these types of units. And because we have the skills and the qualities and the team members with us today, we're doing these things in-house. And so we can buy these materials and buy this equipment directly from the suppliers, so we're avoiding the markup costs, and then we're using our own labor to install them. So we're saving, we figure, 40 to 70% in cost by doing these projects in-house. And as you know, that gives us a lot more bottom line to do more projects within the county and do great things. And then lastly, I'm going to mention elevator modernization. We'll continue to do those things. You'll see on the courthouse there's flags and whatnot up on top there. They're working on that. That was part of the 2019 budget project to get the equipment room set for those elevator modernizations. I do want to make a mention, as you know, the parking garage, it's not on here, but the parking garage is complete. That was a significant project and put many of you through a lot of grief, and it's been tough for everybody. As I mentioned, this department serves all the other different elected offices and locations. And if you've heard the clerk and recorder mention all these new ballot boxes. He put 24 new ballot boxes in. I want to put a shout out to my team, because my team is the one that actually managed the construction of these projects, installing these projects, pouring the pads, getting electrical to them, and we're glad to support the clerk and recorder in doing that. So, and the community. Base budget, you can see it's changed, obviously, like many have. One of those changes is obviously the 27th pay period. Because you can notice the ADA has changed significantly, so that we can, I want to make a point out that the reason that is that I appreciate finance's help in that. In the past, we've always had to come for ADA for critical needs, and now they've put this in our base budget. So instead of having to come for this amount of money each year, they've given us money that we know we can count on each year to do those great things to support the community. But we're hoping that we'll be funded in critical needs is the $1.3 million. And what this will do is, if you recall last year, a lot of our money was for modernizing elevators. And this is actually a 2-year process, and we'll continue that process with those elevators at the courthouse. And then also I'd mention at the 5-year roadmap, we hope that that'll continue, because we would appreciate to have that $750,000 for major maintenance starting in 22 for the next 5 years. So this is a scary slide, but it's important. I show you that the needs of the money that the facilities needs to support everybody here at the county. Every one of these lists, every one of these charts here have been prioritized based on their conditions. And you'll see here we have elevators, and you see we have several elevators within the county that need to be modernized, and there's a significant cost to do that. Emergency generators. Many of our buildings, they are critical functions and need to function in emergency operations, and a lot of these generators are at or reaching end of life. And one example is the courthouse, and I appreciate Sherry and Nikki's help with that, because actually the courthouse generator failed this year, and we had to replace that, and obviously that wasn't budgeted, so we appreciate their help in how we had to get that done. And lastly, rooftops. If a rooftop is leaking, it can affect operations if they can operate, and all over the entire envelope of that building. So this is kind of a scratch on things, but these are just $20 million in projects that we would need within El Paso County. So not saying we would need $20 million today to get these things done, but just as we look at future needs. So I really wanted to focus on what facilities did this year in the light of the COVID pandemic, and there's a lot of great things that this department has done, and I'm happy to talk about today. Custodial is a big one, and cleaning. We've got hot zones. Some zones, you find that either there's a hot COVID, someone's been had what's the word I'm looking for? They've received they have COVID or possible COVID. We have to work with the custodial team how to go in there and clean those and disinfect those areas so that it's a safe work environment for people to come back in there. Touch points. A lot of these locations, while the county's always been open through all this stuff, we need to have touch points disinfected for people to keep it safe. Personal protection barriers. As you can see, we've done a lot of these things, and the great part is you see a lot of these people buying these protection barriers, and they're paying a lot of money to do it. We're doing these things in-house. And the barriers you have actually with you today, we did it in-house, and I think it's superior workmanship in how they did it, and it looks really nice. And I try to make it less intrusive.
And the good news is it's much harder to hear Commissioner Gonzalez yelling at me, so I'm thankful for that too.
We could tent him if you want to see him either, So. But
yeah, but Commissioner Bremer does knock on hers to get my attention on occasion, so.
You can still throw things over if you need to, luckily. The CARES PPE and disinfectant, that's, we've been responsible to how to get disinfectant out to all the departments. How, the cleaning company can't be there cleaning every day. How do we make continue safe work environments throughout the county? PPE, we've been distributing stuff to all the departments to help departments, but also for the public as well. The CSC is a great example of that. The CARES projects. Commissioners, these projects are significant, and I would liken these to having 5 years of projects that need to be done in 4 months. And it is nothing short of a miracle in how we've got these things done and how we will complete them, and we will be successful. But these projects, many of these things are, as I mentioned earlier, that a lot of the industry is busy, and we have a hard time getting new talent. We tried, and we could not get temporary staff to help us out with these things. The staff, there was just no applications. So I'm appreciative of the staff. They've taken all these extra duties on and are doing these on top of what they need to be doing otherwise. And if you've been to CSC, it's a significant project. The Sheriff's Office does have a project. They're managing most of that themselves, but we are assisting them. And then, as you know, the parking garage automation projects, you can see that's going on in process right now. County signage, all the counties, all the signage in the county, my team's been responsible to make sure that during the pandemic, immediately after, we were putting signs outside and inside. This team's been the ones taking care of that work. I want to put a kudos out to the shared workspace program. IT has taken that on for the most part, and I appreciate that because we've had so much going on. But we have been supporting them in that and how do we prepare those workstations, how to wire them up for power, those types of things, designs for the companies. It's significant. Again, I mentioned the health department. We're assisting them with their purchase. Building HVAC adjustments. The CDC has come out to say we need to increase the airflow and the air exchanges in the buildings, and these are the things that we've done to, again, provide safe work environments. And I want to, on this page, I want to end it off. You see the word, they're called ion plasma emitters, and you're going to hear more about this from me here in the near future. And I'm really excited about this. Mr. Joe Daly is on our team and came to us and said, hey, Brian, I said, we've got a great program out here that a lot of people aren't taking advantage of that provides safe and work environments. And what this is, we found that disease or the viruses can be transferred to the HVAC systems. And so how do we help to protect our staff and the citizens that come into the buildings? These ion plasma emitters are ion generators that purify the air. So we are starting a process where and again, we've been working with Nikki and Sherry and Amy on this. I appreciate them how to get this through CARES funds and get these things done quickly. But how do we prioritize which buildings we need to put these things in? And the great part is this is one of those things that we're doing in-house again. Again, we're saving about 50% in cost by putting these things in. And again, we'll be putting signage up in the buildings where they get, I can tell you the Centennial Hall will be on the list to be doing this. CSC is large, the jails. We've already installed one at the RDC Health Clinic. It's exciting, and it's a great way we can then help be proactive with this, not just with the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, but well into the future. So lastly, I want to give a shout out to ADA. COVID has done a lot. We've taken a lot of our time this year, and we'll continue. But ADA is also important, and see some of the great things they've done. Parking lot improvements. How do people get into just to get the basic access to our buildings? Fixing our parking lot, Santa Fe Trail parking pad, the Callahan Community Outreach Center, CSC North parking lot, Veterans Service Center, Environmental Services, Castilian Swatch Garage, the DMV UTC will be done by year end. These are things that we've made these parking lots compliant so people can come in there to access their services. Other improvements, a big one is at CJC, the Criminal Justice Center. We've started phases of their ADA showers. So people that have need of wheelchairs to transfer themselves from their wheelchair to the shower and back and forth safely, they were not compliant. So we were in the process of doing those things in the jail to reach that compliance. Centennial Hall restrooms, as you know, is now in compliance. The courthouse and Pikes Peak Center. The courthouse next to Citizen Service Center is one of our busiest buildings in the county, and we've just completed a code study, and we're in the process of bidding contractors out. We will be starting to, by the end of this year and through next year, we will have that building completely ADA compliant, the courthouse. The professional building, which is the DA's office, door openers there. Swatch Garage, we're going to have door openers all done by the end of this year. We're waiting for materials to come in. Doorways and handrails at Callahan, handrails here at Centennial Hall. And then lastly, I think it's a neat project. As you know, the Pikes Peak Center is owned by the county. On the side where Studio B is there's some stairs that come up there. If you're if you're with a wheelchair, it's hard to get up from Studio B up to the main areas there without going all around. We will have a wheelchair lift in by the end of this year to support those needs. So before I go into questions, I really want to say how proud I am of this team. This team has been here since day one working through this, and because of the type of work we do, the majority of us can't work from home, and we need to be on site to support the needs of the county. And I think they're second to none with integrity and the work that they do and the extra things they do and they take on. I just couldn't be more proud of a team to be part of. So for that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for facilities? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I just want to thank you for all the great work you've done. This is one of those areas sometimes people, not ignore it, but it's kind of in the background, but it touches every other department, and that you have to support. And those hidden costs aren't hidden very long when you see an issue like a collapsed roof, which then requires an entire repair and kitchen to the sheriff's office or department, or as we saw here, an unexpected $1 million renovation to the garage to protect, people, because you have some safety issues, and so these things are very important. The long-term plan is vitally, critically important, and so I thank you for that, and thank you again, and the staff for all the great work that you do.
Thank you, sir. It could be a significant disruption to operations for sure.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brian, you've done a great job, you and the team. First of all, I'm glad that we have done so much work to get us to a place where we have a better understanding about what our facilities have as shortfalls, because 4 years ago when I came on the board, we had some understanding, but I don't think we had a comprehensive understanding. So I think we've done a lot of great work to really get us there, and that's super, really super. I think reducing real estate that we were not really using. I mean, we had 301, 305, and it had been around for a little while, in our care, and here we are. Here we are at a place where we're going to divest ourselves of that, and also the jurors' lot. And what I really love about it is not so much that we made some money, which was very fortuitous for this year with our COVID challenges, but it puts those properties back into the market and gets them to be put to use for something else, so that there's a improved productivity on land use just across the county. And I think that's the other side of the value generation that the sale of those properties is delivering. So the great work that you've done with everybody to get us there is super. And then the CARES projects, oh my gosh, I mean, talk about 5 years worth of projects in 9 months or 7 months or whatever it is. And I was going to ask you the question, but you actually said it from the podium there, that they are all on task to complete on time. So there's some major work that is taking place in those efforts. So I just think that's great. And then maybe just one last, I also see that you do have budget in here in the preliminary balanced budget for continued funding to do some of these projects. Obviously, it's the elevators, but there's a little more funding for some other things, and I'm glad to see that is there, because that says to me that we're responding to those needs. And then one last point, you guys did a great job with these barriers. I tell you what, they just look like they were made for here. So whoever did them, my hat's off to them. I get to, like the rest of us commissioners, we get to see them very, very frequently, and they did just an awesome job on them. So tell them thank you for that as well.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Bremer.
see that little tap on the glass I had to do to get somebody's attention. But in addition to being superb craftsmanship, it also protects me a little bit from a loud gavel in my ear. So thank you for that. No, in all reality, you know, I'm going to tell you what I told Jeff Eckart and his team yesterday, that so much of the of our county's ability to continue to be in business, to continue to serve our citizens, has meant departments like yours scrambling like crazy behind the scenes. And for that, I am forever grateful. And not only not only did you continue to do the work, you kind of had a large set of critical needs from last year that you were dealing with in the middle of this year when this hit, and you not only continued to handle that, but stepped up and took on more and more, and did an excellent job of providing services to our citizens, to our employee base. And one of my favorite days very early in the pandemic was the day I had the opportunity to come and bring breakfast to your staff, and just the sense of pride that they were already taking in the very serious work they were doing. It was long before masks and plexiglasses, and it was really quite early, and we didn't really know what facility usage needed to look like, but your team was incredibly ready at that point to step up and to be responsive, and always with a very customer service oriented outlook. So thank you for your leadership in that. Thank you to every single team member that continued in those early months to not only put out the snow melt, but also put up plexiglass. They really took on more than they were hired to do originally, and they stepped up, and thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to say I appreciate all you do as well. I know it's been a tall task for you this year with COVID. I was thinking back, I remember when we thought the emergency repairs to the courthouse roof were, going to be the biggest thing we faced from a facilities perspective, but boy, this year has made that seem like child's play. That's for sure. And it's, I think you're probably the one entity that, everybody sees what everybody else does and has done through this COVID crisis, but you're the one, kind of the behind the scenes operation that just takes the ball and runs with it. So, thanks for all the hard work. Appreciate it. And hopefully next year's going to be better.
It will be. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate Amy's leadership through all this, and it's all a team effort, and there's going to be a lot of, I think, a lot of opportunities, a lot of great stories when it's over that we can share. So.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to say this for the entire board. We all promise to complain less next year about parking, so that'll be good.
It's on record,
Yeah, that's right. All right, Workforce Center, Ms. Marquez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tracy Marquez, Executive Director, CEO of Pikes Peak Workforce Center. Happy to present in front of you what the Workforce Center has done through our program year 19, which is July 1st, 2019 through June 20th, 2020, or June 30th, 2020, and really talk about what we're doing with the CARES Act funding and the upskill campaign that we have going on. Just a little bit about our impact. Last program year, our economic impact was $146 million. People that use Workforce Center services on average earn $10,000 more than someone who did not use our services. We placed over 13,000 people in jobs in our program year 2019. As an antidote during the CARES Act funding for the first 5 months of 2020, from March until August, we placed almost 900 people in jobs during the COVID-19 crisis. A little bit about our organization chart. We really haven't shared our organization chart with you. We are in a very unique position this year. Last year, I was coming before you, and we had to do a reduction of staff. We had to lay off 5 positions, excuse me. This year, we've added 10 people. Our services are in demand. We have additional funding that I'll talk about in a minute, but we've had to add additional staff to be able to serve our people. Our funding is a very unique funding. Most of our funding is federal funding. We do have discretionary grants. Right now, we have 27 different funding streams. When we talk to people about who can use our services, who's eligible for our programs, we look across and meet our people where they are, not where we think they should be, and really find out what grant resource is best fitted for them, both eligibility and suitability. We have had a huge impact in our business community. Today, actually October is National Disability Awareness Month. Today is our first virtual job fair on our new software that we just purchased. We have 8 companies that are hiring those with disabilities. It is open today. It has been outstanding impact that we've had on the disability community and being able to offer all of our resources virtually. It's very key. Our next big job fair is going to be in November. It's our Community and Veteran Job Fair, sponsored by USAA. It is a virtual platform. Currently, we have over 60 companies already signed up and registered for this. This new platform is very unique, where it allows recruiters to have multiple recruiters in a room, and you're able to go in and do interview, pre-assessment questions, everything virtually online, and we can track people that have gone into the room. So if an employer says, I don't remember who I talked to, we can go through and do the research and provide you a list of the people that you talked to along with their resumes. Customer service team. Pre-COVID, we went from 20 calls a day to anywhere between 150 to 200 calls a day. In 6 months, the customer service team has taken over 20,000 phone calls. We have had an increase of people registering in our database, which is connectingcolorado.com. Connecting Colorado is a state job bank, and it's very unique. It's also tied to the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment. And anyone that has filed for unemployment claims is required by law within 30 days to submit a registration for our database, which is the connectingcolorado.com. We went virtually quickly with everything that we did. We knew people needed to continue to have services for us. Since COVID, we've had over 1,400 virtual job fairs, being able to get people services, how to do a resume, how to do an interview virtually, available. We are very thankful and grateful for your gift of the $4 million from the CARES Act funding. With that, we are able to establish a temporary site at 1049 North Academy. If you haven't been able to stop by and visit, please do. It's over 18,000 square feet. It allows us to set up a computer room, resource room with over 50 computers in a social distancing environment. We've had over 15 customized in-person hiring events. We had our thrift store there today, and we had over 25 people coming in by appointment only to get interviews and to get jobs. We have additional hiring events, I think over almost 20 additional hiring events scheduled so far through the end of the year. We also have opened up this facility in a social distancing environment where we have our work readiness series, which is our young adults soft skills training, and also we've added in resilience training. Youth have taken a hard hit during the COVID, and we have a really difficult time bringing them in to offer them the services, and this temporary location has really given us the resources to be able to do that. With the CARES Act funding that we've done, we've really looked at what can we do to help upskill those who've lost their job and have been displaced due to COVID-19. We took a data-driven approach. This slide shows you the occupations of those who've dislocated workers, those who lost their jobs during COVID-19. And we looked at these occupations and we compared that to the promising occupations we have in the future. What are the occupations that are in demand now and that were in demand last year? And they are very consistently the same thing. We took that and then we looked at the skills. What are the skills needed to serve and fill these jobs that we have in the future? And what are the skills and where are the gaps of the skills of those people that lost their jobs versus the skills that are needed to fill these open job positions? And with that, we created an Upskill 2020 campaign. Upskill 2020, it launched last week. We sent out over 7,000 postcards to people who've lost their jobs in the highest hit zip codes. The highest hit zip codes of those unemployed in El Paso County is 80918. Really giving them the information that they need to really, how do you work at home through 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't sleep. How do you actually get the skill sets you need to fill those open positions? We have business skills, soft skills that are available. We also have computer skills that are available. This is a sample. This is what the web page looks like. We've made it very simple, very easy to get the information. Where do you want to go with? Do you want free training? One of these resources that we have in discovering your strengths is interest and aptitude. Let's say you've been in the hospitality sector, a waitress for 25 years, you don't want to go back. Where do your skill sets? How do you have those transferable skill sets? Interest and aptitude assessments by Use Science also ties into open positions that we have in our community. It ties into the salary of those positions and also ties into the training institutions we have in our community that can actually fill those positions and give them the training that they need. This is, once again, another sample. I'm a very visual person that really helps people walk through what you need, how we can help. Sometimes people just need the opportunity to come to us to get someone to talk to and someone to job coach. Those are available. But we're also offering virtual skills as far as how do you do a Zoom? How do you do a Teams? How do you do GoToMeeting? How do you do WebEx? All of them are 4 different platforms with 4 different unique features within them, and really giving people the opportunity to really engage and really get the skill sets that they need to have those positions. Phase 2 of our Upskill 2020 campaign is outreach to businesses. We know that businesses are having a difficult time hiring. There is a skills gap. Where are the transferable skills? Where are the skills needed for the job? Not necessarily what's your degree, what's your past experience. We're offering these for businesses if you want customer service or resiliency training for your company, or let's say even Excel training for your company. You can send them to a corporate classroom where we can get all this training at no cost to them. What we're doing in the strategic plan we have is to braid and blend funding. We're looking at what we have now with the CARES Act funding, what do we have coming on with our federal disaster grants that we have. We have 2 disaster grants that we have until January 2022. These are federal grants. We have a CO Responds and Recover CO. These are both geared towards those who lost their jobs due to no fault of their own, i.e. COVID-19. Temporary jobs are able to help fill temporary positions created due to COVID-19. This is your temperature takers. We've worked with public health to help fund some of their contact tracer positions. The other one is Recover CO, and that includes training, supportive services, and in-demand occupations. We're in the process of getting this out. We have $1.2 million in these discretionary grants. With this, we talk a lot about what we do and how we help people, and I've got a video I want to share with you, and this really gives you the feel of what the Workforce Center does and the impact that we have. This video is a young adult who's enrolled in our Young Adult Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. He came to us pre-COVID-19. He started his training during COVID and continued afterwards. So pause for a minute for the video.
Hello, I'm Kathy Semino, career counselor with the Pikes Peak Workforce Center Young Adult Program. We are often asked to share the success stories of our WIOA participants who have done exceptionally well with their program goals. I'd like to introduce Ismael Velasquez, who will share his testimony.
My name is Patricia Gans, and I will be interpreting for Ismael. My family is from Mexico. That's where I was born. I went to a mainstream hearing school, but then what happened? I heard about information about going to the United States because they had better communication for deaf people there. So I traveled to the United States, and a family adopted me there. They supported me, and I started going to school. School progressed. I made some new friends, some deaf friends. That was cool. I met a lot of deaf people. It was the first time I ever met deaf people. And I realized that deaf people actually can succeed. They can do things, they can work, they can go to school, they can learn to read. It just opened my mind. So then I heard about a CDL, commercial truck driving license, and I thought, oh, deaf people could do this. Maybe I could do this. So I sat down with my family, my adopted family, and we talked about it, discussed it. They said, that's a good decision. That might work for you. So I researched it some more. I researched, and I thought, this is a good fit. I like this. So my CDL, what happened? First I went to DVR. What happened there? Well, I waited. things just never seemed to really happen. Things just kept getting postponed. I was pacing back and forth. I said, come on. And then I thought, oh, I have a workforce card. I remember something about workforce, so I found my little card. And I talked to my adoptive family, and I said, you know, there's this other place called Workforce. And so my adopted mom went with me, and wow, things started happening so fast. Everything fell into place. They just supported me. Things were moving forward. I was like, wow, I am so happy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for supporting me. So then what happened? Workforce, they have someone that gave me money for my car, for gas, helped me with my phone bill, helped pay for my school tuition. Thank you so much. I just want to tell all deaf people, come here, you can do it. You can do this. Then I heard about Springs truck driving school. So my adoptive mom went with me. She interpreted for me. And the man there at Springs Truck Driving School, he's like, oh yeah, sure, we'll support you. We'll use gesture. It'll be easy. We'll communicate. We'll just mainstream you. Everything will be fine. Everything got better and better and better. Springs Truck Driving School, they were really cool. Our communication got better and better. It got easy. We understood each other just fine. I learned all kinds of truck maneuvers, different things, how to park, how to back up to a loading dock, and more, all kinds of stuff. And then April 4th, I started there. And what happened? I was going to school and I was showing up on time every day and working hard. The first week, the second week, I was learning more and more. Third week, I was practicing, and boom, I hit a big roadblock. What happened? COVID-19 happened, and the school had to close. I was so sad. I went to their door and I said, look, I have got to get a job. I have got to get some money. I've got to keep going with this thing. And he said, sure. He said, sure, just come every day and practice. I can't teach you. Before he was teaching me, he said, I can't teach you. You're going to have to be independent. You're going to have to practice yourself. So I did. It was frustrating. I just kept trying. I got better and better, and finally, I succeeded. And you know what? They asked me to join their team. They even let me help teach just a little bit. Then it was time for my test. My leg was shaking. I was scared. I went, and the first time, oops, I failed. I made a mistake and I failed. I had to take it again. I had to be patient, but then I succeeded. I passed, I got my CDL. 2020, good, I am succeeding. It seemed like then I passed everything. At the beginning, I was so scared. I started, I tried, I failed. I had to come back again. But you know what? I passed. I succeeded. Finally, in the end, I succeeded. So then I went to California. What was happening here? What was I doing in California? Western Express. I succeeded again. They gave me a job. I'm working. Hey, thank you so much, Workforce, for seeing me. Thank you so much for supporting me. You really touched my heart. Thank you.
So that is an example of a client that we serve, one of our customers. Before, during, and after, continue to journey with them. We walk with them. We help them through their difficult times, give them the supportive services, and making sure they have those continuous efforts to be successful in our community. With that, I am open to questions. I do want to note, I have not asked for any money, unlike Crystal, who was lower, and then Ryan was a little bit more. I'm just saying, I'm not asking for any money, but thank you very much. Open to questions.
Well, excellent. Anything for Tracy? Great work.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's been a difficult time.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Vanderwerf.
That's okay, Mr. Chair. I think I made a gesture, and it looked like I didn't want to say anything, but actually it meant I wanted to say something. So yeah. I just want to thank you and the team. It's talk about again, right? A difficult year, but there's been so much that you all have done, and you've been very, very flexible about trying to address the coronavirus issues and how many people, have lost jobs and getting people back to work. I'd say another component of that has been the team's willingness to work with a lot of people in the community, the chamber, different community partners, getting this office open and being sensitive to where you open it because it's connected to bus lines, so people that might not be able to afford a car can actually get to this place, right? That kind of stuff. And I just thought I'd make a point. I thought even in doing virtual job fairs, you probably are going to have a larger job fair than anybody else in Colorado because your job fairs are always, really big. So great work on everything that you all are doing. I know that you and the team are well recognized by the state and also at the national level. So great work. They see it too. Just keep going. Let's get everybody to work. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right. Retirement's up next. I don't know who here is from retirement, but come on down. Yeah, for sure.
Thank goodness.
But if you could just step to that microphone there.
Sure. So thanks for having us. So my name is Greg Kuppenheimer. I'm the Executive Director of the El Paso County Pension. With me is Chris Long, who's the Chairman of the Board of the El Paso County Pension. So good afternoon. Very short presentation today. Just going to get right kind of to the point and give you some basic overview. And by all means, if you have questions, please let us have it. My first challenge. There we go. So to understand a pension, just think about a basic company. Unlike manufacturing or selling things, we have essentially assets and we have liabilities. The assets are essentially investments in the capital markets that we make throughout the course of every month. Every time contributions come in from employees, these are deployed into the capital markets, stocks and bonds. However, every time an employee is hired at the county, we create a commiserate liability, or should I say the county creates a commiserate liability because they are promised that if they contribute to the pension, they will get a certain amount of benefits upon their retirement. Now, there's a lot of calculations that go into figuring out the liabilities. How long will the average employee work? What will their salary trajectory be? What will it be when they retire? How long will they live? You can imagine. There's a number of variables that go into this. But the best estimate of those liabilities is about $604 million. Our assets are easier. It's just the market value of our assets, which is $401 million as of year end. Both these numbers are as of year end. So that creates two definitions. The first is the unfunded liability. This is simple. It's just liabilities minus assets. Our assets are larger than our liabilities. Take A minus B. Our unfunded liability is $203 million. Our funded ratio is also simple. It's just assets divided by liabilities, and that's 66%. So these are two really simple metrics to look at the health of a pension. Now, something I want to mention to make it clear is pension liabilities are liabilities of the county. These are actually promises made by the county, and therefore this is an issue that we feel it's important to make sure that we do a very good job communicating with you the health and trajectory of the pension. So hypothetically, if all the assets went to zero, that would change nothing. The county is still on the hook to make all of these payments. In other words, the county needs to be equally engaged and concerned in the performance of the pension because ultimately those unfunded liabilities are a concern. Now, it's not today's unfunded liabilities that are the biggest issue. It's really where are they going to go. So using the same modeling that I mentioned earlier, which I'm happy to elaborate on if you like, we project that the unfunded liabilities will continue to grow, and they will grow at an accelerating rate. In other words, they start off growing relatively modestly, and then their growth rate picks up year by year. If you look out 25 years, those unfunded liabilities, we think, will be approximately $500 million. Now, how big a deal is that to the county? At the moment, $203 million is a concern, but not a critical issue based on your credit rating agencies, right? Even Standard & Poor's looks at this stuff, and they've said, this is something we're going to keep our eye on. But with each passing year, this liability gets bigger, and therefore it's a concern. Now, let's look a little bit at those projections. So without making any changes in the plan, and critically assuming that we earn 7.5% on our assets, which is the current assumption adopted by the pension board, then what would it take to bring those unfunded liabilities to zero in 25 years, just to get our arms around the scope of the problem? It would take one of two things or a combination of both. Either increasing employer or employee contribution, makes no difference from which side of the fence it comes from, by 2.6% a year. Now, to put that in perspective, the current employee and employer contributions, employees contribute 8, employers contribute 8 for a total of 16, so you'd need to go to 18.6. Or a cash contribution in the amount of $6.6 million each year for 25 years. You could do either one of those things, or obviously you could mix and match, do a little bit of employee, a little bit of cash. But that gives you a sense of the magnitude of the problem. If nothing is done, these are just the same numbers that I showed you in the table. Our funded ratio may not change, but that's not really the direct issue for the county. It's the unfunded liabilities that are the concern. Now, the preliminary balance for El Paso, the balanced budget for El Paso County includes an increase of $650,000 from unrestricted funds. This is our ask. So the briefing gives you why we're asking, and this is actually the ask. This, combined with other restricted funding, generates a total of $1 million into the retirement plan. Now, for 2021, that's just a flat number. Now, included in the 5-year financial roadmap, with the larger county planning, is graduated funding, as I've shown below, to get the plan closer to meeting the actuarial required contribution. In other words, just to remind you, to get closer and closer to $6 million, $6.6 million, because that's ultimately where we need to go. It can come from the county, or ultimately it could come from changes to the plan. And that's the longer term actual strategic plan, is that the pension board recognizes and sees all the same numbers you do. They recognize that other things should be explored. Should we look at benefits? Should we look at employer or employee contributions? Should there be changes to the plan? But if we're only looking at raw numbers and no changes, then this is what's already in the 5-year plan. In your budget. So here are the key takeaways. I told you I'd be brief, and I have no video. So the issue is the plan's unfunded liabilities are going to continue to grow, and they're going to grow at an ever-increasing rate over time. We're not likely to grow our way out of the problem. Pension assets are invested in the capital markets. There is a limit to the returns that can be generated out of the capital markets over long periods of time. That's just financial physics, as it were. If you were to ask professional investors, consultants to the plan, they estimate that the next 10 years, returns will be probably 5.9 to 6%. That's just an estimate, and there's obviously a lot of variability in that. But returns aren't going to get us out of the problem. It's not a matter of not investing aggressively enough or smartly enough. Nor will minor changes to the plan. So ultimately, things have to change in a more meaningful way. So when we address longer-term sustainability, if we refer to us presenting to you as an informational thing, and we'll take questions, this is more of a stopgap. Longer term, the board of directors is engaged in analyzing the plan with the objective of delivering to you recommendations for changes, most likely by March of next year. And the goal is to halt the growth in the unfunded liabilities and have a plan that's sustainable economically for very long periods of time. That's the end of my presentation. Happy to take questions.
Awesome. Any questions for the Retirement Board? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, being one of the commissioner liaisons to the Retirement Board, I have found it interesting the way that you have worked towards getting to at least the beginning of some action, right, with regard to this issue. I think it was wise that you took your time, you got involved in a discussion, you didn't try to make any presumptions of needing to do A or B or C, but really just to kind of try to illustrate the problem. And I know that the Retirement Board has taken some action to reduce some of the costs of managing the retirement plan. I think that's been very useful. Chris, I appreciate your leadership as the chair, and I think that the board itself is taking this very seriously, and I'm appreciative of kind of the beginning of these tasks and actions that were taking place. It's going to take a long time to get us to a sustainable retirement plan, but here we are because we've been through this conversation. That conversation has gone to the senior county staff, and we now have our first steps, and I think that's really wise. So I just want to thank you for that, and I do ask you to keep doing that because we've got to kind of over the next few 2, 3, or 4 years or something really get to a process that will allow this thing to continue to be useful going forward. So thanks.
Anybody else? Commissioner Brimmer.
Thank you. Just a quick clarifying question. So as a stopgap, as you mentioned, this funding that we see put in over the next 5 years, it doesn't really do anything to decrease our unfunded liability, correct?
Kind of correct. So every dollar that's contributed to the plan is going to ultimately reduce the unfunded liability to some degree. But you are correct that it doesn't reach...
Doesn't change the percentage funding, I guess, is what I should have said.
No, it'll also change that too.
Okay.
So the funded ratio, which is less useful, because ultimately the funded ratio says, at least on our projections, that we'll have 66% of the assets we need to deal with the pension. What is more relevant, in my opinion, is the growth of the nominal, the dollar amount of the unfunded liability. The reason is because the unfunded liability is the equivalent of debt for the county. So what you have is the equivalent of, and this is the same way S&P looks at it, runaway debt, debt that's growing potentially faster than the county budget, which makes it a bigger problem. So it's true that we could say, well, gee, 66% funded, it's kind of stable, but that's not really the way the credit rating agencies will look at it. They're going to look at it like, well, 20 years ago it was 200 and now it's 500 type of thing. But every dollar that comes in from any source, be it employee contributions or directly from the county, ultimately brings that trajectory down, ultimately. These numbers came about with consultations with Nikki, basically what can be tolerated, because it's not useful for anybody to come in here and be like, guess what, the number's $50 million, how do you like that? So ultimately this is just what looks like can be done. It is helpful, every dollar is helpful. The longer term plan is going to have to be changes to the plan in one way or another.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Chris, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add a couple things. Thanks for allowing us the time to speak, and Lahinos and Stan, appreciate your guidance as liaisons on the for the plan. When I took over as the chairman of the board a couple years ago, I was looking to really get to this point, and we've done 3 very important things over that time. One was to really streamline the office, but keep good staffing levels, and we've been able to reduce those costs, as Commissioner Vanderwerf mentioned, and actually have better levels of staffing in the office. We hired a new investment firm to manage the assets on an ongoing day-to-day basis, rather than the board, who gets together only 10 times a year making changes. And especially in a year like this, we've seen the importance of having an active manager there. And then the last thing we're really working on is getting those assumptions correct, because we didn't want to come to you all and say, here are the changes that we need, without having an accurate representation of the positioning of the overall fund. So we look forward to continuing to work with you to to shrink that gap on the unfunded liabilities. And, we know you guys are prepared, but just to remind you, we will be coming with some suggestions to the Board of County Commissioners on what to do, and it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to getting to that point because we've done a lot of work to get here. So again, thanks for everything.
Thanks, guys. All right, COG, you get bat cleanup here.
Walking downstairs in a mask is hazardous, no matter how long you've been doing that. My name is Stephanie Adams. I'm the chair for the Citizens Outreach Group. It's my 4th year on the committee, 1st year as chair. You just click this. There we go. So you already know that we're required to look at the progress of the county strategic plan, check in on the activity of the public safety tax with the sheriff's office, and review the progress of the county's 5-year financial roadmap. So I'm just here to tell you that what we've done on fulfilling those obligations. So due to COVID-19, we were not able to do the traditional review we do with Tim Wolkin on the strategic plan. As a member who's been on for a number of years, and many of our committee members do stay on for a few years, we did review that last year. It's something we normally do in March or April, and there was a lot of other things going on, so we did not get to do that this year. But in place of that, we did spend a lot of time as a committee reviewing the plan for CARES Act funding and just answering any questions. One of the great values of COG is that as typical citizens out in the community, we hear things when people are confused about what the news might say. And when CARES Act funding came out, it was wonderful to be able to share with our spheres of influence what was happening with that money and why the city got so much and why the county got so much, and what a leader the county was in steering the community. So here's a list of the dates that we received updates from Nikki and staff on the CARES Act funding. It was also awesome to, in June, hear about all the money being set aside for economic development, but then hear again from Crystal in October about how that program had come to full fruition. So I'm sure the members on our commission, as well as myself, are really excited and proud of county staff for knowing that need in our community. And we did speak with the sheriff's office on the public safety tax in July via remote conversation, and hearing how they've made upgrades to the jail was also great with CARES funding. And like I said, we also look at the 5-year financial roadmap. So especially this last meeting we had just a few weeks ago in October, seeing how that's changed. I also have to say I remember the county commission meeting when you all talked about having that $1 million in emergency reserves. That was the board's discretionary emergency reserves. So wonderful to see. I think, Nikki, correct me if I'm wrong, that's happening hopefully in the roadmap if all the preliminary things happen in the next year. So proud of all of you and the leadership and seeing that come to fruition. That's it. Thank you so much.
Any questions for the COG? I would just say we just recently appointed my very good friend Sarah Jack to the COG, so if you could please haze her, we'd greatly appreciate it.
We met her last meeting, so it was great to have her, and I wanted to say that usually COG plans a citizens college as well. We spent the last 3 months of 2019 planning with the task force the way to execute that in 2020. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that, so once we can all gather again, maybe we'll tackle that in 2021.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, guess what, guys? We are down to Nikki, who has texted me and said it is a less than 1 minute wrap up.
It is. Yeah, I'll go quick. Normally we would come back at this point and talk about revenue estimate changes. We just talked about the preliminary balanced budget a few weeks ago. We do not have revised estimates for you. We have looked at those estimates, but they're still pretty on path for what we were expecting at that point. So we are not revising the revenue at this point. We may, when we come back in November, have revised estimates to start the November 17th 17th budget hearing with. So you don't have to listen to me give another presentation this afternoon. Just wanted to point out that we have 2 more budget hearings after this one on November 17th, which is where the Board of County Commissioners will give final direction on the 2021 budget. This is the final direction where we'll do the spreadsheet up on the screen, give head nods to remove anything or add anything based on administration's proposal to you in the preliminary balanced budget. And then between November 17th and December 8th, our budget team headed by Lori Cleaton does a lot of work to get final documents ready for the Board of County Commissioners' blessing and approval on December 8th. And we do that to meet a statutory deadline in order to certify our mill levy and have property tax bills go out next year. So looking forward to that process. And again, we invite citizen comment at every one of our budget hearings. And I think I might have gone over my minute by a few seconds because that's what I do.
Anything for Nikki, Mr. Vice Chair?
I just want to thank you for all the great work, and once again to reiterate to the public, really I think the meeting that we want the public to really come out for is the 17th of November, to provide your input. I mean, you can do that now, right? They can go to our website. Could you just mention that?
Absolutely. We have a email address. It's AFS, so it's the Administration and Financial Services website, our email address, afs@elpasoco.com. Also, you can email me directly or call our budget office. I'm more than happy to listen to any comments. We love citizen comments on our budget. But yeah, the best option for that is at November 17th. That's the time that you'll actually have, we're making decisions on what will be in that budget. The December 8th time, we're welcome to hear the conversation or listen to the comments, but at that point, the documents are already put together and ready to approve. November 17th is the best time to give any comments if you want to see some changes.
Awesome, thank you.
I appreciate your support as a board. Thank you.
Great job. All right, item number 12.
Item number 12 is the addendum, and we do not have an addendum.
13?
Executive session. I think Nikki Simmons was requesting an executive session for some. Just kidding. We have no request for an executive session. Thank you.
I was going to say, I thought she didn't work here anymore. All right, we stand adjourned.